Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Lots of Gravity, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Yu Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W., Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Say that again?
Can you hear me, Righteous?
I'm not sure.
Did he
You
have
might be coming in
measurements?
low. Is it just me?
You said he had measurements?
Yeah, he said he measured a circumference.
How?
Is that what he said?
Using physics somehow.
Calculated it, right?
Sure, off of angle measurements to Polaris in the grid system.
The same Greeks that thought the sun rotated around the earth.
The Greeks? What Greeks?
Yeah, how do we know the Greeks thought that? Because somebody said the Greeks knew it was a sphere?
Yeah, that's why all the ancient Greek sculptors started sculpting spheres everywhere.
Now, that was my question when I went to the museum the other day. Is there any hieroglyphics? Is that what they call that? The Egyptians, what they were doing? Is there anything like a sphere or, Earth being a sphere in ancient writing, hieroglyphics and things like that? Do you see it in caves? Or do you just see the moon and the sun?
I think the Egyptians' mythology was that the sun was like riding like a chariot across the sky.
But never what they're standing on to be a ball, right?
That's what it was like in that movie, Gods of Egypt, I think it was called.
Do we still have these hieroglyphic spheres or ancient Greek constructed spheres? Is there any evidence for this?
Only the celestial sphere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Only just the moon, right? And the sun. But I'm saying they never drew themselves on a ball. So what's this nonsense that for thousands of years, everyone knew it was a sphere?
It's an origin story, I guess. I don't know. They were probably heretics. Anybody ever thought of that?
There a video we're going over today? Anyone know? I hope
Yeah.
not that guy again. His voice is boring.
No, there's another guy that's talks about the same thing, but a different person. So there might be some differences. I think 10th Man might have wanted to compare and contrast the two.
Okay.
Good morning or evening, everyone.
Morning, AJ.
Hey,
What's
AJ.
up?
Good morning.
How are we all?
Very good.
Fair to partly cloudy. Copacetic. Tomorrow is supposed to be from space.com. There's an article on a black moon. I guess it's the first visible, I guess the crescent's visible in a waxing moon. Call it a black moon. I had never heard of it till today. What else? We got I don't know, some crew planning for the first time in 50 years, they're planning a moon mission. That's from space.com. That's all I got.
Hey,
Afternoon,
AJ,
guys.
you do you know that I could get to you in 42 minutes if I dug right through the earth? It would only take me 42 minutes to tunnel through and be down under with you.
You must be one hell of a shoveler.
That's what it says. 42 minutes to go through the whole earth. This is it me or does that just seem too small?
That seems really small.
Haven't you seen the new Total Recall movie? Seemed
No.
about that time or less.
I only seen the old Total Recall, but I don't know when they dug that borehole. What's the deepest hole? How long did it take them to dig that hole?
8 kilometers or 8 miles. I don't know how
Yeah,
long it
and
took.
I think they were there for years trying to do that.
You know, it's not very big, that hole, right? I mean, it goes deep, but it's not like this big hole.
No, it's like a drill shaft, just a drill rig that's drilled a hole.
I think they might have meant if it was already dug out and all that stuff. Right? It would take.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could
If
take
it
as
was already
fast as
dug,
that.
exactly. If it was a hole, a dugout tunnel, you'd be able to zip through there in freaking 42 minutes.
Yeah, this
Well,
video.
if gravity's coming from the center, how does that happen? You'd go past it and then do a
Okay, I'm
somersault
gonna
so you land up the correct way, and then I don't know, get stuck in the hole
I'm gonna
going backwards and forwards, stuck to the center.
I'm gonna read it to you. The total time required for this trip would be 42 minutes. The speed of our traveler at the center of the Earth would be 7,900 meters a second. If there were no friction, there would be no energy loss, so our traveler could oscillate into and out of the tunnel. So there you go, 42 minutes.
Yet it took 20 years to dig 7.5 miles.
But even still, that's oh god, it's so ridiculous.
With the tunnel finished, but how fast did you say you were traveling?
7,900 meters a second. What is that, Adam?
Whoa.
About 8
Would
kilometers
you
a
be actually be able to
second.
breathe at that speed?
You can go any speed if you're just making shit up, can't you? I can give you any time. I'll go a bit
Yeah.
faster. I can do it in about 15 minutes. You know what I
Same,
mean?
yeah, like on Flatstoid Show. What we were talking about? What kind of cables were they talking about that they made? The special ties? What was that?
The aquamarine space cable ties.
Yeah.
Yeah, cack. I assume that number's calculated on terminal velocity or just falling half the way. God knows how you go up for the other half and need a lift, wouldn't you?
Traveling at the speed of making shit up.
Exactly, and that is fast.
That is fast.
But yeah, 9 inches in diameter, 40,000 feet or 7.5 miles. 20 years.
Wow. Yeah, I wanted Brian
Oh,
to
well.
go over that in a live show today. That whole upward moving Earth atom. I think that would be good. So when they're asking the housekeeping questions, how can we get that in there?
Well, it'd be under evidence of gravity, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Because that's the whole thing, right?
Well, that's what it is. It's a gravitational substitution, isn't it? For why things fall, they don't. The Earth comes up.
Is this just on their version of the flat Earth, or is this the globe as well?
Well, it's taken from relativity. So, Flat Earth Society apply it to a pizza disc. God knows how you apply it to a ball.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's very confusing. How's it going up when someone's on the opposite side? Is it going up for them as well? And what's happening there?
Relative.
Yeah, it can't be. You see, so relativity can't take those two positions into account. Can't describe the two positions. It only describe one from one vantage point or another. It can't conflate the two. As you see, when you stick it on a ball, you can't have relativity. There isn't relative. The only thing that could be, if it's relativity, is an expanding ball. Expanding at 9.8 meters per second would be the only equivalence to having upward accelerating, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even the upward moving Earth. That means you're then that you still think we're in space.
No,
Because what else could it be?
no.
But then where am I going up to, Adam? But
You
you're
don't
going
have
up
to.
where?
I've put you in a snow globe that's accelerating through nothingness. It doesn't have to be space. It doesn't have to go into that paradigm. If you're going to make a whole new set of shit up, get rid of the old stuff and invent a thing that's not space. You can invent what you like. You're making it up. So call it a quantum tunnel. Who cares? It doesn't have to be space. It's just nonsense. But to me, it doesn't invoke space unless you imagine it that they're only imagining it as space.
Well, but what I'm saying is, we look up, right, Adam, and what do we have above us? We have the sky, right? You have the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Right.
If we're going up, then we're going into space. No,
No, because we're just going up. We're not getting closer to the stars, are we? So they're still set in the firmament in your snow globe, and the whole snow globe's going up. Through what? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have
I
to,
see what you're saying. I got it. Yes,
doesn't
yes,
have
yes.
to invoke space to me.
Right, because we're in this whole snow globe thing, and we're just going up to who knows where, right? Because we're already in the firmament. You're saying, right?
No, the firmament's fixed above us, a fixed distance above us. We're not moving in relation to the firmament. Us and the firmament would be moving
Right. I got it.
all together. What that's moving in, I don't know. You know what I mean? God's pocket. Yeah, got a joke for you, Neil.
Yeah. But,
How do you make God laugh?
you tickle
Tell him your plans.
him. It's actually scriptural. It does say that the plans of man, God laughs. So it is in the Bible. I'll find it.
There you go.
Tell him your plans. All right, I got it written down. Thanks.
It's Adam, it's in when all the nations conspire together to come against the Lord, it says he laughs at them. So they're setting their plans, right?
Well, yeah, but I meant it the other way. You personally.
Yeah, I know.
I'm planning on doing this, God. Oh, really? That's news to me. Thanks for telling me.
Well, it does say that also. Well, it doesn't, but he says, you fool, today your soul was required of you. The guy that built all his bonds, the rich man, said, I know what I'll do. I'll make bigger bonds and I'll load up my stuff and basically I'll be good. And it says, you fool, today your soul was required of you. So yeah, tell God your plans and you either die or he laughs.
Don't think you got that joke.
I got it. And tell it, you've been laughing at me for 20 years now.
Laughing with for 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been laughing with me for 20 years. I don't
Yeah.
think he's laughing at me.
No.
But that's a good one. Where'd you get that from? The pulpit? Because usually pastors come up with
Yeah, it was some Christian teachers there, pastoral stuff I was listening to last night. It just made me chuckle.
It was the other one too, when they go into a seminary, you know. It says the first woman that came in, everybody said, God told me that's my wife. So here you got thousands of people claiming that that's their wife.
Tell it again. I didn't catch that.
You're sitting in seminary with 500 guys, and the first lady they see, God told them that's their wife.
Okay, so they're all waiting for the same, making shit up.
Are you there, Temp?
I'm in mourning.
And well, it still is morning. It's afternoon here.
Good morning. I'm in
yeah.
mourning.
Yeah, that was a massacre last night.
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Oh,
like
you
they
still
never
talking
showed
about
up.
Soccer.
We're not going to say it because Nathan will interrupt. So we're
Yeah.
just going to talk about it.
Nathan, I don't even think he's here right now. What happened?
He's here. The minute I say that word, he'll be here.
So what happened with the Real Madrid game?
They never
Uh,
No. Let's
See
not
what
do
you
that.
did?
see what you did, Neil?
I just wanted to express my condolences. Didn't have to discuss.
Thank you, Adam. At least your
Mate,
team, is 4 points up, right? On relegation.
Fingers
Yeah, but
crossed.
seriously,
We're stopping.
What? Okay, that's it. We'll stop. No problem. We got you back on the.
Nathan, they're playing with balls. It fits sphere Earth, you know?
So today's video, Nathan, is the same guy, but it's going to be a classic one because he's at least honest enough to say things in his videos that others aren't.
Wait, it's the same guy? I thought it was gonna be a different guy.
No, Eratosthenes. He did Al Baruni yesterday, so he made reference to his video on Eratosthenes. But just the way he does it and how he asks certain questions, it's just it can make the ballers blush. And
Flush
flush.
works too? Flush works?
Yeah, they might flush too. Yeah, I don't think you could ever cover enough because there's new people coming. There's people who want to hear the argument again. Repetition, mother of learning.
Yesterday was, I thought was going to be repetitive. Actually, what we found out in terms of the detail within the claim was interesting. The lack of sea. Like when you posted that first picture, Ken, you know, the one we've always used with the lake next to it, you've assumed that that's, you know, that's the shoreline, isn't it? That's not even there in Pakistan, is it, that bit of water?
No, I went back. Well, we've all seen that other one, the guy with the astrolabe. And then when you see this one, it's like, huh. And then when it was pretty relevant and apparent that Nandana is said to be the official place where he did it, and the nearest sea is 642 miles away, as Quantum Eraser mapped it out, the story all of a sudden becomes more interesting because now we got to compare that story with the other story. Which story is right? Where did it happen? And how could it happen? So same thing with Eratosthenes, all the conflicting things. How did he measure the distance? Well, that's today's video. So there's a lot of things that are said that have been done in the past. And then when you have the tourist department saying, "Hey, come over here. This is where it happened," and we'll take you to the mountain, the fort, everything, and all the citations tell you it happened there. But then the other video takes you by some water right next to it. And he says he's at the same place. How can you be at the same place if they're two different places?
No, I went on the map as well with QE, and he's got the satellite map, and I was struggling there. I went onto the picture map, and there's blue areas near the fort. But then when you go back to the satellite map and zoom down in it, it's just a dry riverbed. There's no water on it. So, but that was the nearest, you know, the stuff that was near.
Right.
But I'd found it, zoomed in, and it's just a dry riverbed. There's no water running. So it might be only parts of the year water runs, but even then you've got a river running down a mountain range.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one thing you do know about a river running down, like, it's not flat. It's a river running down a mountain range. So the 2 points on the river, you've got to know the elevation drop just for those points.
Right.
Elevation drop, never mind to know that. It just becomes more and more impossible in the location they've put it. Do you know what I mean? And you've got no, and see, if you are going to reify the horizon, then they're reifying not a sea horizon, but they're reifying something that is blocking their view 1,000 foot above, where,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? The whole
Right.
thing starts to fall apart more and more and has less. Even if you stick within their claim, it's not valid, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. No, I follow the progression of thought you're giving here. But the funny thing that I see is that wouldn't it be hilarious that a tourism situation of, hey, let's get more people to visit our country and we'll show them where it actually happened. And by doing that, they turn the whole story upside down because there's another story that happened somewhere else with a sea. Well, which one is true now? So it throws a wrench into the whole story now. So one country's desire to ramp up tourism could break the whole story and make it fall apart.
No, there'll still be idiots that'll flock to these places. If you go to Egypt, for instance, there's old churches there that Christians flock to, and it's just a just so story.
Well, they got traditional. I went to Israel twice. They got traditional sites for tourism. This is where this happened. This is where this person was born. Of course, it's all for tourism because no one really knows it's a traditional site. Might be in the proximity, might be close to it. Who knows? But to make money and charge you a fee to walk through a hallway that's caved underground and then back up again. Oh, I went there where this happened. Well, maybe, probably not though. Now, Sea of Galilee is there, obviously. There's certain things that are always there. Mount of Olives is there.
What if with this new moon mission, the astronauts return and they land where on Alberuni's mountain?
Where are they returning from?
Narnia.
Florida.
A pool.
Florida. That's where they are, right?
Or Nevada, I'm not sure, Neil. Some suggest a place in Iceland.
Well, it depends on how much they're being paid. They could be returning from a 5-star hotel somewhere around the world. How much would the astronauts be paid to keep that lie? You reckon?
I don't know.
They would be the main ones that do need to keep it.
I don't even consider these people astronauts because when I
The
was younger, the astronauts were jet fighter pilots and tip-top shape. And I mean, you watch some of these videos.
It could be MK Ultra, then.
No, it's not that new concept car from Jaguar. It's these astronauts. Forget all that crap. People lie. We all lie. That's the thing we repent from. We try not to lie. We say we shouldn't stretch a story or really lie. A lot of people make a living out of that, like astronauts.
Let God be true and every man a liar.
Exactly. It's like I'm always fighting against my nature.
I had a very interesting conversation on Facebook today. Was told that an elevation angle does not require a horizontal baseline. It actually requires no baseline at all today.
What are they doing
And
it up in the
who
air?
was the wise sage that said this?
There's a new site on Facebook, and I think it's called Civil Flat Earth Discourse, and this guy wanted to debate, and I spoke about elevation angles. He told me that elevation angles, well, for a start, he told me that it wasn't required because celestial navigation today is done via the celestial sphere. So I asked him the question that when he's measuring his angle of elevation, is he standing on top of the Earth or is he standing at the center on a flat plane? So he'd failed to answer that question, and then he came back and said that a baseline is not required. So I gave him a citation of what a elevation angle was. He then came back and gave me a big story about how he can measure an elevation angle with sticks and shadows and he doesn't require a baseline, and that proves me wrong. I told him it still wasn't a citation, so he told me that I was stupid and that I'd learnt all I could learn from him, that there was no way of teaching me anything, and it was done.
Flat Earth Civil Discourse, that's Charles. That's Flat Earth Math.
I was going to say that, Nathan. That has to be Charles, what's his name? The school guy that you debated or destroyed.
So he taught you.
I'll find out.
He taught you all. Hang on. The best part is I taught you all I can. I gotta go.
Yeah, he wouldn't provide me a citation that stated an elevation angle did not require a horizontal baseline.
It's in their own books. It's in their own writings. It's in their own methodology. He's fantasizing here.
And then he told me that if I was in Australia and that I didn't agree that I could see the celestial pole, then I was lying. And I said to him, I don't know, man, you better show me this celestial pole because I have never seen a celestial pole.
Hang on. So he's saying if you're in Australia and you can't see the Polaris, North Pole,
The
region?
southern celestial pole. And I said to
the
him,
southern. Okay.
I said, we don't have a celestial star. And he goes, no, not the star. You can see the southern celestial pole. And I said, oh, okay, no worries. Point this thing out to me. And yeah, he said that I'm lying if I can't see it, but I don't know. I'm in Australia. I've never seen a southern celestial pole.
Celestial.
I see stars rotating.
Celestial, not celestial. Celestial.
Sorry.
Okay.
My bad English.
I thought he was repeating what the guy said.
Well,
Charles
I
is a
was,
numpty.
but,
He lost, didn't he? You need a flat baseline for an elevation angle. I've got 20 citations that I can grab immediately. I post them almost daily
He told
to
me
idiots in the
he
comments
told me
section.
that those citations are only relevant for a flat Earth. That they're flat Earth
Yeah.
elevation angles.
So welcome
not
to
used
Flat
on the
Earth,
globe.
because that's what's being used. So it's only relevant to a flat Earth. Yeah, that's right. That's what we use. So it's only
He
usable
invented
on a flat Earth. Yeah, that's a concession. That's the loss that he took. Hey, Charles, only works on a flat Earth. Yeah, you're damn right.
Well, how could they work on his round Earth if they work on a flat Earth that's simultaneously?
He just told
They
you
can't.
it can only work on a flat Earth, says Charles. Yeah, that's right, Charles. They're flat Earth celestial angles. That's right. And that's what's used only on a flat Earth. Because we are. Are they used? Yeah. Can
He
they
was
only be used
telling
on a
me
flat
that it
Earth?
wasn't
Yeah.
required.
Charles has confirmed it.
He was saying that it wasn't required on the globe because you didn't require a baseline at all. All you needed was a plumb bob to give you a 90. So I asked him how he was
It's
using
over.
this plumb bob at sea
Mhm.
and how he was still obtaining a 90-degree angle from a plumb bob if he's got a curved surface.
It
Hang
isn't.
on.
What's his plumb bob perpendicular to?
It isn't. Further to that, what's he got at the GP
Level.
of the star? Is it 90 degree at the GP of the star as well? Yes, it is. So Charles is
Over.
screwed.
I'm not sure who this guy is. I'll find the site now and I'll tell you.
We know who it is.
I think what
Well,
Adam said is
what he's doing is finding a co-angle. Still
The
using two
co-altitude.
straight lines, yeah. And then he can suppose that and calculate his elevation angle. But if you use a plumb bob, you don't calculate elevation angle. You just directly take co-angle. He's
Yeah.
still using two straight lines. Technically, he's not using a
Yeah, it's called-
baseline, but he is using a perpendicular line to the baseline.
No,
That's
no,
correct.
No. When you say he's using a plumb bob to just drive an angle to a star, okay, what off the, like you've already addressed, perpendicular to what? Okay, well, let's just brush past that for a second. We're talking about a debate in regards to celestial navigation. Well, what are you going to do with that star? What are you measuring? What do you need from the star besides the angle? Oh, you've got the measurement from a plumb bob. Okay. What else do you need? You need the baseline to be at...
horizontal.
Fuck's sake.
Sorry, I thought you asked a question.
Keep it going.
So it's called Flat Earth Civil Discourse, and the guy that's running it is called OG Qued, QED.
That sounds like somebody else. Doesn't sound like Charles.
Maybe it's not Charles. Who cares? You're measuring the GP position below the star, 90 degrees to your position along the flat baseline. So yeah, the guy's correct. They are only relevant to a flat Earth. And that's how it's done.
So his response here, when I gave him 2 citations for elevation angles, he said, these right triangles are not the globe method of celestial navigation. That would be the flat Earth method.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so it works on a flat Earth.
Yeah, it works on a flat Earth. The celestial navigation method uses that one. You want to cite your bendy baseline to non-90 degree positions below the star, their GP? You won't. That's not how it's done. So that's a concession. That's him admitting defeat. Well, it doesn't work like that on a globe. No, you're damn right it doesn't.
It sounds like you realize there's
It was a very
relationship
confusing
between the
debate.
sky- He may realize there's a relationship between the sky and the ground. He just thinks it's a pole in the south.
Well, I understand what he's trying to describe because they say because it rotates around a point, then they say that's the pole as such, but I just don't like their language. So, no, I haven't seen a pole. I've seen stars rotating.
Well, they're going to need an R value for all
Well, that's
this.
right. They're
They don't
assuming
have
the
that.
globe with their pole, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is why the Black Swan is first in the way I do it is I destroy their globe with the with the black swan. And once the globe is destroyed, I mean, look, we're going to watch a video on Eratosthenes today. We saw one yesterday on Al-Biruni. These are their figureheads of how they got their R value and circumference. We're going to destroy them both. So now, modern day, thousands of years later, they still can't prove to us we live on a globe because the black swan shows that it's beyond its limitation. What's beyond its limitation? Earth curve. Earth curve is not jello. It doesn't change. It's supposed to be an R value that's consistent. So the minute you show a black swan, and we have many, many black swans, then we know the horizon is not geometric.
Oh yes,
Hey
100%.
Nathan, maybe he
I-
retired, Charles. Maybe he gave his channel up like the other guy did.
I don't know. This guy's not that smart though.
No, just
In the
in the
end,
way
it
he
came-
was, just in the way he was
When it came-
summarizing with you. Well, I'm sorry. Go on.
I was going to say what it came to in the end is him replying saying, "I think our chat on celestial navigation has come to an end. I have done all I can to help you understand the globe, distant stars, celestial navigation, but you persist on thinking somehow we require horizontal references. We don't. Thank you for the civil chat."
See,
Ask
they,
him what the equatorial plane is.
I've asked all
I
these
don't think-
questions. He skips the questions and changes. So when I asked him for the citation of the elevation angle, proving that it doesn't require the baseline to take the measurement from, I can read you what he gave to me.
he's never going to admit it, Adam.
While you're digging that out, quote, the altitude angle, sometimes referred to as solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. End quote. Sustainable by design. Altitude angle. I've got 20 more.
Yeah,
Oh,
I gave
dear.
him 3. And so when I asked him for his citation of not requiring the baseline, he says, "Okay, here is my example. Don't fuss with the exactness, just go with my big picture.
No.
I live in New..."
Just before you start reading it out, I know you were about to start. That's why I got in there just before you did start reading out a citation. That's not what a citation is. A citation isn't some wanky description you as an individual come up with. Now, if you've got it written up and it's detailed and published, then maybe. But as for you just coming up with an example, end quote, that's not a citation. This dick doesn't understand what a citation is. Anyway, go ahead.
No, and I called him out on that in the end. I live near Newcastle, New South Wales, about 1,100 to 1,200 kilometres from Rockhampton in Queensland. I have driven there. It's a bit further by road, of course, but Google Maps type distance and real life, so I don't quite understand what he's trying to say there. On the December solstice last year, the sun was measurably at about, so I'm not quite sure how something can be measured about. That's a bit confusing. 10 degrees off the north of my local vertical. Sticks and shadows trig at the same time. It was directly over my head near Rockhampton. On a globe, distant stars model, this observant predicts that I am somewhere on a circle about 10 degrees of latitude away from where the sun is directly overhead near Rockhampton at the same moment. Can you see why that is the case on a globe basis? You don't have to agree, but you can see why it is so.
Not
I
only
am
is it-
to say,
Sorry.
rotated that far from the direct overhead view of the sun. So I predicted to be 10 times 111 times 1100 OD kilometers from the spot. I've done this maths on 2 occasions. It works. No horizontal lines were used. No visual instruments were used. Does this clarify what the current version of celestial navigation is for you?
Number 1, that's not a citation. Number 2, you posed a question in the middle of your example. And number 3, we can rattle off, including in your own description, examples that require a horizontal baseline, including but not limited to an example of the sun or whatever it was he described being 10 degrees. That's an elevation angle. He then mentioned latitude lines, a grid that's come from elevation angle measurements to Polaris. This numpty is giving you flat Earth example after flat Earth example, trying to get you to pose a question in your mind about an example he's giving about his version of celestial navigation that what doesn't need baselines when you're talking about how high the sun is off horizontal, or a grid system that's derived from a horizontal baseline measurement to Polaris. These people are so stupid. It makes me angry.
Even have a perpetuating globe, let alone self-perpetuating molten iron core in the middle of it.
Okay, well, what about any evidence of an elevation angle measurement acquisition from a curved baseline?
None.
That's an impossibility.
None. It's contradiction. An angle is two straight lines meeting at a vertices, right?
Yep.
Need that baseline.
You do, and the globe model itself, if you want to call the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator a model, that requires both a horizontal baseline labelled in their maths, check out Metabunk with its surface level, and eye level. Those are both horizontal. So the maths itself requires horizontal, be straight, not bent. Now, for the last 7 or 8 years, I've heard idiot numpties from the globe side of the anti-flat Earth discussion telling us that horizontal doesn't mean horizontal, it means bent. That level doesn't mean level, it means curved. And yet these fundamental principles are part of their maths. And not only are they part of their maths, that principle is exploited to give you the differential between eye level and surface level, to claim that the point you're seeing as the horizon is actually a mathematical derivation in their maths below surface level. When you watch yourself viewing something in Muppet Vision, side of your own head, side of the target, side of a tangent point horizon, below the surface level that you're acquiring it from with a differential calculator, otherwise known as Earth curve maths. Well, there is no physical geometric sphere edge horizon. You wouldn't expect to see it even if you're a globe-believing Muppet. It doesn't exist and hasn't existed since 2020. It was debunked with the Black Swan. There's no longer any geometry to Earth to acquire because of refraction, according to them. Not that their refraction actually represents light bending through a sphere-shaped air. It doesn't. Nor does it represent actual refraction in the form of Snell's law with light traversing two different mediums. It isn't. What they have is a derivation of their R value when they beg the question, and then beg the question on top of the begging the question, and then beg the question on top of the begging the question to leave them with a paradox where they can't acquire the geometry, straight line tangent to Earth curve they claim boats are being, forced to fall over in their mathematics? Yet they lay that claim at our door with pizza pie Earth and boats falling over it. Yeah, well, there is no physical geometric sphere edge horizon. There hasn't been since 2020. Therefore, there is no geometry to assert. There is no angle corrections to do. There's no dip geometry. There's no straight lines. The globe is so dead, it's untrue. You know, that is why we need to be censored. That's why we are here. That's why we're at the bottom of the lists of the graveyard shift of people producing crap on YouTube. We're not going to be found when you look for Flat Earth, because what we describe here is absolutely devastating. We not only explain how and why Earth is flat, how it's measured and navigated flat, but also how that flatness has been exploited to give you the globe belief that you're actually in, if you're coming here to debate. Not that you are, because you know you'll lose.
Nathan, good time to read some of those citations, like the one you read on the elevation angle in the pre-show.
Well, maybe we can have a bit of preamble for the live audience. So, AJ, I don't know if you want to read out the comment. I'll give you a bit of a preamble and I'll know not to interrupt it and stutter my way through it this time because it's quite lengthy. But if you can read the response you've got to this chap and maybe introduce him as well. This, for the audience's benefit, is a comment response to a person who has been asked a specific question. It's very direct. The question was, can you give me a citation for the acquisition of an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Now I'm paraphrasing, but that is in essence the question the person's been asked. Give me a citation for your bendy baseline. And this is the response he's got. So over to AJ. Hopefully he hasn't disappeared.
No, I'm here. So this is OG Qued, QED, from, this is a news site that's popped up, Flat Earth Civil Discourse on Facebook. And his response to my asking for a citation, he says, okay, here is my Australian example. Do not fuss the details or the exactness. Just go with my big picture. I live near Newcastle, New South Wales, about 1,100 to 1,200 kilometres from Rockhampton in Queensland. I've driven there. It's a bit further by road, of course, but that the Google Maps type distance and real life. I'm not sure what he's trying to explain there. On the December solstice last year, the sun was measurably at 10 degrees off my north of my local vertical. Sticks and shadows trigonometry at the same time. It was directly overhead near Rockhampton. Okay, on a globe plus distant stars model, this observation predicts that I am somewhere on a circle about 10 degrees of latitude away from the sun. That is directly overhead near Rockhampton at the same moment. Can you see why this is the case on a globe basis? You don't have to agree, but you can see why it is so. I am, so to say, rotated that far from the direct overhead view of the sun, so 10 degrees. So I am predicted to be 10 times 111 kilometres, 1,100 odd kilometres from that spot. Nowhere on a circle of that radius, which I have done the maths on 2 or 3 occasions and it works. I have no horizontal lines. No horizontal lines were used. No visual instruments were used. Does this clarify the current version of elevation angles or celestial navigation for you?
Answer, no. You asked for a citation. And you gave me that bloody word salad that included 10 degrees off horizontal for a measurement to a light in the sky. Yeah, you'll need a flat earth for that assertion of a degree measurement. No horizontals were used. What about the degree measurement you gave us? What was that you said in terms of latitude? A grid system that's been acquired by flat earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris? What do you mean there's no horizontals involved? What do you think that grid system is? You know, the same one Fight the Flat Earth scared of? That's a flat earth grid. Well, yes, you did need flat earth for all of your questions that weren't a citation for how you don't need a horizontal baseline when measuring an elevation angle. That wasn't a citation, you dumbo. What it was word salad. Yeah? Questions that used flat earth. That's what it was. Meanwhile, quote, the altitude angle, open brackets, sometimes referred to as the, quote, solar elevation angle, close brackets, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. End quote. Sustainable by design. Altitude angle. That's a citation. You notice how it didn't come with a series of questions that included flat earth proving elevation angles to a light in the sky or flat earth proving latitude lines. It was just a description of how you measure an angle off a horizontal plane that you're standing on, with quotes around it. Yeah, Dumbo's on the globe side. You've got nothing. We're proving how your globe came from a flat earth, because it did. What have you got? A load of word salad? That's your responses? Or maybe you can make the Toon attempt to, go up against a couple of flat earthers laughing at him because he's telling them how straight lines are used. Really? What about the refracted lines you've told us for 3 years? You are so buggered 6 ways from Sunday on the globe believing anti-flat earth side. The rest of the people you think you're going to scramble your way back up to being, yeah, they're blissfully unaware of this going on because we're segregated away from them efficiently by YouTube with censorship. But you, the guys who are actually here, who think you're globe believers, you're not, you're anti-flat earthers. You're all screwed. This must be absolutely devastatingly painful for you all. And I know why. Because we are proving not only that Earth is flat, measured, navigated, obviously observably flat, but how that flatness was used to give you your globe. It's sad.
I was very confused how we went from celestial navigation at sea to driving a vehicle to a GPS and measuring sticks and shadows. That's very confusing to me.
Especially given you asked
Well,
him for a
fortunately-
citation on elevation angle measurements, not needing flat baselines, which they do. That wasn't it.
Fortunately, today's video is on sticks and shadows.
So as with yesterday, I think this is the same videographer as one of the videos that we covered yesterday. On that note, I did actually find in amongst the arguing amongst the panel with John's acquisition of flatness, regardless of scale for the things around, that got edited out, let's just say, into a nice condensed 12-minute video that has been titled something to the effect of BBC proves Earth measured flat to lie about the globe. Or something a bit more clickbaity. I can't remember exactly what I used, but something like that. BBC proves flat to lie about globe. That's members only at the moment. It'll come out over the weekend, so check that out. It did take a lot of work, and obviously an exceptionally gifted panel. So yeah, thank you guys. You can check that out as well when it comes out, unless you're a member, and then check it out now. It's out now. But this
No,
is the same
sorry.
video. This is the same videographer that was cut up into that video that's now out for members. And as always, go and let this person know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So the live stream chat has got a link to his video going by now, and I will formally introduce what we're going to be covering in a second. But for the meantime, while I'm formally introducing this person, because you will be coming back and actually listening to us pull apart this garbage, I mean this wonderful videography, just let me know in the meantime at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Maybe leave a nice comment. Say we pulled apart your video, or we responded to your video, whatever it is you want to say. And hopefully he'll return the algorithmic love. Even though he's got a pretty small channel, it doesn't make any difference. Whoever, we would hope he would return the algorithmic love and put my link in his video, should he respond. Okay, whoever it was, go before we start.
It was just
wanted
me.
to say
on
good
the
morning.
point.
Sorry, Adam. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
One shot. Just on the point where you said, I trimmed the bit out with John. That's how we work here. You know, it might have not been the greatest listening, but it's probably more back after show is what it's more like. That's how we beat through stuff. We'll argue with each other till we get to the truth. You heard it like yesterday again with Brian expressing his upward accelerating Earth. That's how we get there. We don't rest and just take people's word for it. If we've got any doubt, any query, we raise it with each other and work through it.
Exactly.
And that moron that was presenting that yesterday went to that exact same point later on in the episode.
Which one? The moron that said that they used the grid to get the radius? That that
No,
moron?
he didn't make the distinction between a baseline and the baseline.
What John's trying to say is, at the moment that it was ambiguous and we objected with the narrative intact, but the narrator didn't have it intact, John stepped up to say, your critique is incorrect because at this point with the narrator's ambiguity, he can do what he's actually said. That's not necessarily what Al Baruni's going to be doing, but he's left it ambiguous enough for John to critique it and say, no, he can establish a flat section somewhere up in these mountains. He didn't say you can go from there and get the height, but he was pointing out that because of the ambiguity of the narrator, and I only know this because I edited it after the fact, John, so it wasn't like I was paying that close attention to be able to summarise this so consistently, but like I say, I just edited the video this morning. So, yeah, it's one of them. It is still worth, even if there is that ambiguity from a narrator that's being hyper-specifically pointed out to be strictly speaking true without the rest of the context around it, as John did, and have everyone else to send on him to say, no, in Al Baruni's context, he does need sea level. That is the show. You're not wrong. At some point, someone was, I think it might have been John, you're like, well, what, debating this? Because I was moaning. And I was like, oh, no. After the fact, it's like, no, you were right. That is what we do here, and it is kind of what this show is all about. Doesn't matter if it's some fundy coming in or us amongst ourselves. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So no, it was very much appreciated. I don't want to give off the impression that I just don't want that to be the case. I do. That's the name of the show. You know what I mean? But there we go. But it wasn't for the purposes of education. It got edited out because it wasn't necessarily useful for the really excellent bits that were so concise as a result of that discussion that's had a fine point like by all the panel members. And I even commended you halfway through. I trimmed that out as well because it's hyperbole. You don't need me saying, these guys are ace, look at them, look at them go. You didn't need that either. But the fine end of the points I've kept in a 12-minute video because up until now I've never been able to get a lengthy discussion about Al-Biruni together where we can say, look, this is how they hijack a flat earth and turn it into a globe, with all of us discussing it and saying, this is how the narration's wrong, this is how the location geographically is wrong, here's how Al-Biruni's wrong, here's how it uses a flat earth. I mean, it was a really excellent, I mean, I say so myself, I've edited it, but, you know, it will be, if you see it on Saturday, an excellent video. You know, check it out. But that's why I used glad it was a BBC video, because that's what I used as the clickbaity title. BBC proves measurements of flat earth used for Globeli, or whatever my clickbait title was.
Yeah, they like to confuse between a baseline so they can use a horizontal, and the baseline is everything will be measured from. They do that all the time.
Exactly. So that they can give you what is effectively again, kudos to John because he describes it on every other show, the differential calculation between eye level, that's a horizontal, yeah, the one that you draw out horizontally from your eye, and the baseline, the flat earth acquisition that you must use to reference everything else in terms of height. Well, those are two different parallel lines, and all the Earth curve calculator does is give you a differential between those two parallel lines, but assert that the point that's being measured at the horizon at surface level that you can actually see is a mathematical geometric horizon that you cannot see because it not only can't be seen because of refraction, forget that, it's below surface level in their maths. Very clearly drawn with a dotted line saying, here's the surface level. And here's the tangent point geometric horizon that can never be seen. Below it, below the surface, the level surface, the one needed to give you the geometry of the globe.
I've still got a real problem with ascertaining a baseline. You've got 2 points to take a measurement to the top of the mountain from. He's only got water running downhill. So he can take a measurement from point A, and he can get he can use a plumb line to generate his angle and relate that to a horizontal. But what he can't do is take the second angle and give the differential in height that he's taken off the water, which is running downhill. I don't think he's, without a standing body of water, which requires him to accept that a standing body of water is flat, I don't think he can ascertain a straight line of no change in altitude between points A and B. Take the measurements.
Oh, no, I don't think you can either.
No, I totally agree. I said it yesterday as well. I mean, but my problem was I dropped that point in just before you two got into the wrangled angle of whether or not any baseline could be established based on the ambiguity and hyperbole by the narrator. But as I say, yeah, when you're backing away from something and you're backing into a valley, I completely agree, Adam. You haven't got a common reference.
And that's why I say kudos that we have to argue like that amongst ourselves, because I wouldn't have considered developing that argument to go against John if it's not proposed, yeah? But in doing so, we demonstrate even further between us how ridiculous and impossible a task he's claiming. That's how we work, man. I like it.
Okay, hopefully we've
Because
chatted.
John is ace, bro.
Yeah, you're all ace. Before we blow smoke each other's ass, we are still live and we haven't even started this video at all. So we'll get into this. Hopefully everyone's been and let him know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
We will go over the first ever measurement of the circumference of the Earth. I've rated the physics level in this video as easiest. This experiment...
Pause.
We've had the rating. I mean, I've got blocked ears, and when Brian said it yesterday, it sounded like the rating of the difficulty was idiot. That's how it sounds to me because both of my ears are completely blocked up. Anyway,
Yeah.
go.
No, I was going to comment. He's saying the measurement versus calculation.
There is no measurement here.
Was first done by a Greek named Eratosthenes, who was from the city of Cyrene, which I believe is pronounced something like Kyrene in Greek, and is located in present-day Libya, but at the time was part of Ptolemaic Egypt. So we call him Greek, but I guess he could just as well be called Egyptian or Libyan. I'll let you decide which nationality best suits him. Anyhow,
Any commentary so far? Seems reasonably historically accurate. I've got no objections. Anybody?
how did Eratosthenes measure the circumference of the Earth?
He didn't.
Well, he knew that in the city of Syene, which is the modern city of Aswan in Upper Egypt, on the summer solstice, the noontime sun was straight overhead.
But I've got a first question. Why does this have to be on the summer solstice precisely?
The summer solstice, in the sense, works just like the equinoxes when they're over the equator. That's the summer solstice, the furthest the sun goes, and it's directly overhead at that place where it's at. Each time the sun moves in its circuit, it's directly overhead somewhere. And so in the summer solstice, it's directly overhead the well.
No, I get that.
Well,
No. I know what that means. I realise that the sun is going to be at the zenith, and I understand the claim. What I'm saying is, let's rephrase that. Is that to assert that this only works once a year for the assertion?
The comparison, yes. That's why he has to go back the following year. And that's why that first place is chosen, because at that point it is GP for the over the tropic. So at that point there will be no shadow because it is directly at the GP of the sun. So that's your base.
I see. So,
Oh,
no, I'm just trying to. I'm trying to relate to heliocentrism on a different level. So, in other words, for me to, maybe I want back in. Cypher. I want back in. Okay. So, what have I got to accept to get back in then? I've got to accept that on a certain day with the sun above you at a certain position. This is what I've got to accept, correct, Adam?
Yeah, but this is taken from reality. So it's not that the sun's going to have that position. That's fact. It's what the intonation of the angle change when you go to Alexandria or Cyan, whichever
You're
that
doing it
angle
again.
change.
You're doing it again. You're saying what I'm saying.
Get you back on the ball.
Yeah. You're just not saying it in the scary voice and without the voodoo music and drums in the background. Now, if I put in some very deep timpani drums and say, "This is real, the sun will be overhead," you've got to do it in a more dramatic type of way so that people understand this voodoo. That at a certain time of year or at a certain place out in the desert, the sun will be above you at a certain time of day, and then a year later you can do the same thing. And this is just, I'm just saying, when you look at it from outside in, this is what we've got to accept, correct? This voodoo, over 100 people watching, woohoo.
Why, Nathan? Is it a problem that you should be able to only measure the physical circumference of this Earth only once a year?
Look, right, I'm just saying that in a similar vein, I can describe that the only way to go through the portal to retrieve the Tesseract is when the sun is above the well at a certain time of year. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Exactly.
Well, no, if you're wanting to use geometry, right, and the flat Earth to get your 90 degrees, which don't mention 90 if you're wanting to go back to the globe phase, you're going to have to measure that angle to get your right triangle, right?
Yep.
That angle on that day at that time.
It doesn't matter what day. Just pick another object. This one happens to be a well.
Yeah,
the sun.
The
sun is
elder and
gonna be
wiser
direct.
of the panel aren't doing what me and Chocolate are doing. Now, this is not an age thing, but I am going to make it an age thing. In other words, when someone says this isn't a race thing, there's a good chance that they'll be calling the person who's black a nigger or something after that statement comes out of their mouth. So when I say this isn't an age thing, it very much is. But You're not picking up what me and Chocolate are putting down. We're drawing attention
man.
to the. It was a time of war. It was a time of suffering. On the noon of the third day in the desert of Siberia. Just that's what me and Chocolate are going with. You're going no. If you pick a different celestial item and do the geometry, that's not where we're going with this. You're just not picking it up.
I picked it up. I thought you were done. I'm changing it to what I want to say.
Yeah, you cracker.
You
Well,
want to make
gotta
it
throw in there.
serious.
Don't mention 90.
Exactly. Don't mention 90. Well, you just did, John. So we should really get this back on a serious vein. I mean, it is fun being a flat earther when you ignore all the ridicule, but there is actually a lot of globe believers out there, and we really should do a proper job of this. I'm sorry. And so should Chocolate be. I actually blame him.
Oh, so don't,
I
don't
blame
blame the
myself, too.
redneck.
Sorry. To people who actually want to keep on topic, that's me and Chocolate. We will now keep our mouths shut, I promise.
Right, it was a time, yeah, when shadows and angles of shadows, and the bigger the angle of the shadow, the more the Earth curved.
Rule the earth.
Okay. We're having fun here. Please share the show.
Meaning that if you put a stick in the ground vertically, it would cast no shadow. However, back in Alexandria, where he lived, on the same day the noontime sun was not straight overhead, and so a vertical stick in the ground would cast a shadow.
He has kind of missed out the whole 1 year later thing, hasn't he? Oh well.
Let's draw a little cartoon to make sure we all understand what we're talking about here.
Yay, cartoons!
It's everything you wish for. You.
Same thing. Yay!
No.
Yay!
This is where
I'm excited.
no,
Neil,
this
too.
is where it gets good. This is where it gets good.
If this is the ground, and we have a vertical stick, at noon on the summer solstice, the sun is straight overhead, and so its rays are parallel to the stick, and so no shadow is cast. In Alexandria, on
Why is it with this guy? Right. Okay. Okay. If you're going to say no, look, I appreciate that the sun looks like it's only 3 foot off the ground, but there's no scale in this diagram. Okay, I accept that the sun isn't really 3 foot off the ground. There's no scale, even if you're a heliocentric believer. I'll give it you. Okay. Why isn't the ground curving? Is it because he's describing something being vertical, perpendicular?
Is he
to
showing a
horizontal?
flat ground?
Yep. That's why I said it's going to get
It's
good.
terrible.
Hello. Yeah, we like you proving a flat Earth, but it's also irritating. You know what I mean? We want to commend you, but ultimately you're our enemy. So it's hard. So we can only laugh.
the same day at noon, the sun is not straight overhead, and so its rays come in at some funny angle, which we're going to call theta.
Well, proving a flat Earth. Well done. What is it, man? It used to be in 2016, this sort of thing would make me scratch my head and shit my pants. Excuse my language, but I'm being serious. And I'm sure there's plenty of flat earthers out there also that would be baffled by this and go, what the hell? Whereas we're here arguing amongst ourselves about the finite details of some of the disseminations and ambiguities of the hosts who give these sort of videography, and just pointing out every step of the way, this guy's proving a flat earth. You realise that, right? These angles need a flat earth.
And as a result, a shadow is cast on the ground. Eratosthenes says, look, if the Earth is round and the sun's rays are coming in from this direction,
then you wouldn't get any shadows that give you an angle. Because you're taking it off a curved line now. That's not an angle. Okay.
At noon on the summer solstice.
I have a problem with if the Earth is round.
Well, that's what.
If you don't know if the Earth is round or not, how do you know you're calculating a circumference
I'm glad you're here,
or a
Chocolate.
radius?
I'm glad you're here. We're all just too close to the tip of the spear, it seems. Yeah, not that I'm saying chocolate's become dull or anything, but yeah, we shouldn't forget the fact that you don't beg the question. You don't just automatically assume that, well, if the Earth is a sphere, it's because we're going through an Aristophanes example, right? But yeah, why not go back to grassroots? No, you don't beg the... What do you mean, if the Earth's a sphere? If the Earth's a banana, why would you make such an assumption?
Exactly.
Why not?
You've got to beg
this
the
is
question.
after-
Right.
This is after he shows a drawing of a flat baseline, and the sun at an angle to it, which actually is the reason why the shadow is cast. But he's later going to say it's because the Earth is curving.
Shout out to BG, who says, I don't always super chat, but when I do, it's the best place to date to keep up with the flat earth debate. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate your support, BG. Thank you for the super chat. And over 110 people watching. Please share the show. A massive thank you to all of you. There's only 115 odd people watching because mostly regulars who come and watch the show all the time share the show regularly. But if you've just got here because probably you clicked on a link that someone shared to you, please do the same. Click on the share button. It's not going to bite you.
It must be the case that Sieni is located right here, at the closest point to the sun, such that the stick points straight out in the same direction as the sun's rays. Alexandria is further north, so the stick points off in a different direction, and so the sun's rays come in at an angle theta.
That's not an angle. You've got the line meeting a curve now. Yeah, fundamentally different to an angle.
Relative to the stick. And so we have a shadow.
He did say relative to the stick. Okay. So you've got a curved baseline between these two things. That doesn't work.
Maybe he doesn't understand logic. Maybe the problem is that he doesn't understand how a suppositional statement's supposed to work. And if your if statement contradicts your measurements, don't even continue.
Notices that because the sticks are perpendicular to the ground, they're simply extensions of radii.
Oh, where I said he was wrong? No. He's going to suggest that if I assume Earth's a sphere, and if I assume my premise is incorrect, but for the fact that they move to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So no, John, no, he's got around that by just saying, if I beg the question and it fails, then I beg the question that the light moves to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth by angle because it's perpendicular to R, as opposed to perpendicular to the flat baseline I drew initially, then it all works. Obviously, it means we've got to go to the centre of Earth that we're not doing, and we're not standing on a presupposed spherical Earth to begin with. But other than that, this now works.
And the angle between the two radii.
Sorry, I missed that. I played through. Say again, Adam.
He seems to have missed a few of his assumptions out, and so the first assumption Eratosthenes is going to make is he doesn't know what he's on and where he's at. But what he's going to try and do is assume that the sun emits parallel rays and he's big and far away, and that's why on a sphere he's going to get these shapes. Or it could be that the sun is close, local, and smaller on a flat plane, and he's not sure. So he's going to do this, and
as was detailed himself.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right, Bob. So that's really what he's detailing. He's still working in assumption land to try and demonstrate that it is, but he's working on the assumption that if all of these things are correct, that the sun is big and far away, and therefore light rays are parallel, which they're not, then he can put it on an Earth and interpret the shadow angle as just been described.
And you know who backs you up on that? Mr. High Priest himself, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says whatever Eratosthenes did could work on a flat plane as well.
Is just the change in latitude between the two cities. Having studied his geometry, he realizes that since the sun's rays are parallel to the radius going to Sieni...
I realize. Maybe you could define realize as opposed to assume. Now, we could get into debunking this assumption in terms of Adam's very concise description he gave 30 seconds ago. But do we need to cover the bad moon shadow here? Has anybody got this down pat to the point where they can summarize it in 30 seconds?
I'm ready, but we're not ready to mention it yet.
Okay.
And the stick is parallel.
Before we move on, I would like to say that if you're going to assert the rays are parallel, how did you measure the angle of the rays to assert they're parallel?
Exactly. Like I said, that's another massive assumption in his hypothesizing, because this is a differentiator. They could be diverging, and it'd be a close, smaller, local sun that's having this effect. So that's what he can't tell. So he's going to use and assume that the sun rays are parallel to then just calculate his radius.
Yeah, but still, he'll need a flat plane either way to measure the angles to assert they're parallel.
Correct.
No.
It's still madness.
No, not in this method. Because as he said, it's in relation to the stick. Look at the diagram. You're creating a tangent plane here, which is fine for what he's claiming in terms of the geometry, because it's an extension of the R value. So it's okay to generate that first angle theta, and then, like I say, but it's not applicable to the surface he's standing on. It's only applicable to the tangent plane that's created by the stick, perpendicular to the stick, to the R. So you can take that angle, and it's that angle he's going to use and measure to then define the curvature that's being assumed is the cause for the angle change.
That's a
So
paradox.
if we assume, yeah.
Go on, John. You got there first. I'm going off what you said because I figured it out after you said it. Go ahead. Before I steal your glory.
So we're going to take the angle we had to measure off a flat plane and move it to the center to establish the lines as parallel.
Yeah, tangent plane. We all good?
As soon as we've got the angles,
The center of the thing, you're still trying to figure out the
Yeah.
distance of it.
Yeah, before you figured
What?
it out, Chocolate. Yeah, Chocolate's got there. Before you figured out, you've got a radius to the center of it, parallel light running to the stick, and a tangent plane to give you a vertical stick tangential to a plane that runs on the top of a Dingleberry Earth with a line to R. Yeah, that's what you've got to assume. You've not figured it out yet, but you've got all those things in place to make this assertion. Yes.
yeah. If you can then assume that, then you can take the angle theta, translate it to the center of the Earth, use that theta angle and express that by the known distance between Alexandria and Cyan, so you can work out, say it's 10 degrees, then you know 360 divided by 10, you can express that as a percentage of a circumference of the known distance that you've got between Alexandria and Cyan, and that will therefore allow you to generate a circumferential value, which you can then divide by 2 pi to give you your R value.
Correct. So
That's
what's physically happening, though, in terms of where both of the gentlemen on the panel are correct, is there's a transposition in terms of what Adam described as I can't remember how you phrased this, but you'll tell me in a second. What you've got is the assumption of a tangent plane, which is what you're getting the angle off. But that is the angle measured to the item. Yeah. So with the stick and the shadow, it's the generation of the angle based on the position with respect to the sun, giving you that shadow. Well, that is a flat measurement off a flat plane in physical reality, regardless of your assumptions. Now, that angle is you holding a protractor and the degrees that you can move the arm through the protractor. That's the angle measurement. Now, the bait and switch comes where that angle measurement off the surface, which requires a flat plane, which is where John is absolutely correct, refracted curvature is absolutely correct. They then change that to an angle measurement that you could literally hold a protractor or an astrolabe and take, to it being the circle that we see here described as Earth being a protractor itself. So instead of that degree measurement being the degree that you take off the surface, a tangent plane in this diagram, it's now Earth, as labelled, as a protractor. So it's the degree from the centre out. That's where they make the bait and switch, with all of the assumptions that must be in place for them to do it. But all of those assumptions are just subterfuge for the fact that they've moved a physical angle measurement from the surface to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth they haven't got a measurement for yet. That's what's actually taking place. So it's moving the angle that you physically can take with your hand and your eye and putting it at the centre of Earth to make Earth the protractor. Anybody else got any comments on this? If not, I'll carry on playing.
Is it
Parallel to the
logical to try to figure out the circumference or the radial value of a flat plane?
No, they're taking a measurement off a flat plane and then moving the angle off the flat plane to the center of a presupposed spherical Earth.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to figure out the circumference of the flat plane they measured.
Yes, exactly. Where your paradox started, and I spotted it when you. Exactly, it's a paradox. We're trying to figure out the circumference of this flat surface we're measuring, or this flat surface we're getting an angle from. What's the circumference of this flat surface we're taking this angle from? That's the question they're asking. Well, we're taking the circumference of this flat baseline we've got an angle from. If the light comes in parallel from a distant sun to a presupposed spherical Earth, and we transpose that angle we took with our hand and eye down to the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth, then the angle is actually the angle of an Earth if it's a protractor. That's what they're saying.
I've got a picture. I've got a picture of it for you to show the audience in Master D.
But that was my whole problem with the if the Earth is a sphere, then he's measuring circumference. Who told him that it was a sphere that he was measuring in the first place? And if nobody told him that, how does him taking measurements off a flat plane assume that or assert that that's a sphere that he's measuring? This is batshit crazy.
Because the narrative is he assumed it was a sphere in the beginning.
Ancient Greeks, man, ancient Greeks.
They didn't. They used the equatorial plane, and the description, what we call a globe burger, is the flat plane with, in this instance, north-centric. And then you've got a dome of the heavens around this, what's on screen now that 10th Man's just posted. But the surface isn't the surface that's drawn like it's a map with North and South America mostly showing, with a flat plane cutting through the middle of it. The flat plane is the bit that the measurements are actually taking place on and reference to. And then the line that's going to be drawn out draws out through the ground you're no longer claiming to be standing on, out to the celestial sphere or celestial hemisphere. Well, it's got nothing to do with the globe Earth surface at that point. It's redundant. It's not even redundant. It's surplus to requirements. All right, let's continue.
Would you like something else that I could send you that really? Hold on one second.
If you like, I'll carry on with this.
Radius going to Alexandria, then the change in latitude must be equal to...
The change in what now? My God, we don't get far into these videos before they start proving a flat Earth, do we?
Yeah, this is...
The change in the grid they didn't have yet.
I doubt very much that they got long bits of chain and rope and went the 500 miles. So if you postulate how they're going to calculate the distance between the two cities, then the most logical way would to be take flat Earth angles to Polaris and calculate the difference. That would be the sensible way. So once again, the distance we're using is a flat baseline.
I've just looked it up.
Distance.
Apparently he was using raylons, and raylons is a globe Earth term distance, and we don't actually know the scale of raylons to miles, but if I estimate that it's roughly converted to a globe, then it all works out.
He actually demonstrates later what he thinks happened, but if you go to the next slide, Nate.
Just to reiterate that point, just as yesterday we said with Al-Biruni that he gets his height of his mountain off a flat plane, which he can't generate. Yeah, he's using a flat base. This is what I'm saying here again. So instead of just the 100, 200 meters that he's taking the different angles with Al-Biruni, this is now a 500-mile distance between the two things. And the only way to ascertain that is to use celestial navigation with a flat baseline and judge the differences of the angles, elevation angles from Polaris. That's how you define the distance between Ceyhan and Alexandria. It's off of a flat plane, unless you measure it and account for R, which you'd have to do, which is what you're trying to find out. So you couldn't measure it that way. So you have to take a straight line distance.
Okay, I've got your highlighted quote on screen 10th.
Yeah, this goes with the picture before you showed. It may be a bit confusing for beginners to imagine the celestial equator and the related declination. A really simple way to picture this is to replace the sphere of the Earth with a flat circular platform on which the telescope stands. This is how Bright Ascension and Equatorial Mount telescope works. 4 axes, right? And it says, well, you got to imagine a circular platform on which the telescope stands. But I'm supposed to be doing it from a curve of the Earth. No, I got to imagine that the Earth is flat.
Wow. Where is that from?
I'll post it. It's really good. It's all about the Equatorial Mountain Telescope and how it works. It destroys them.
Yeah, it's
There's
built
an
on
extra
horizontal.
tidbit in there because it's like, they have the flat plane, but that wasn't enough. They also said it was round. What's up, guys?
Yo, what up,
What's up,
Eli?
Eli?
To the angle theta that the sun's rays make with the stick. He then says if we know the distance from Sieni to Alexandria, which we're going to call S here, that's just an arc length on a circle, and it must be equal to the radius times the angle theta. This is just by definition of an angle.
Well, the distance that they give, even if it's asserted to be a sphere, Brian covered this a couple of days ago, would be a chord length distance. So,
They say definition of an angle.
yeah.
Yes, he did.
long as you
Wonder if
measure-
he'll define angle for us.
In radians, not degrees. The circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, and so we can replace r by the circumference divided by 2 pi, and then solve for the circumference to find that it must be equal to 2 pi s divided by theta. Now all we have to do is measure theta and s.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please like and subscribe.
Before he plugs his own video, I mean, we are sharing the algorithmic love today. Go and let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully he'll make a response. There's a link going by in the live stream chat now. So hopefully with 125 people watching. Wow. Please share the show. Massive thank you to all of you who smashed the share button already. That's why there's 125 people watching. But yeah, let this dude know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. We responded to your video. And should he make a response, hopefully he'd do the same for me. Anyway, there's a link. It's going by in the live chat.
And consider sharing it with a few friends.
There's a few assumptions that have been made here, so let's
All right, let's see your disclaimers.
go over them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're way ahead of you, buddy.
The first assumption is that the Earth is a sphere.
Wow. Never gets old. Knew that was coming.
At least you're honest. It's okay. It doesn't matter. This assumption is a logical fallacy. So off its face, Chocolate called it. Yeah, let's not forget. This is just a begging the question fallacy, right, Chocolate?
Yes, indeed. Play that again for us so we can all hear it nice and loudly.
And subscribe, and consider sharing it with a few friends.
There's a few assumptions that have been made here, so let's go over them. The first assumption is that the Earth is a sphere. In reality, this business of the sun's rays coming in at one angle in one place and a different angle in another place doesn't actually imply the Earth is a sphere, it just means it's not flat. The second
Whoa.
That's a non sequitur and baseless assertion because the angle requires it be flat. So why did you drop that in?
It's
Go on,
also
Adam.
against the logic of the premise of Aristophanes. So his assumptions are that it could be round Earth, yeah, with a sun that is big and far away emitting parallel sun rays. Or it could be a flat Earth with a sun that is local and close with divergent rays. That's the two explanations for the shadows. You can't tell in any of the measurements he does which it is, but what you can do is show the calculations for it being a ball Earth and the sun big and far away. But the assumptions has to also include that it could be a local, close, small sun to create exactly the same shadow. Eratosthenes does not deny that.
But he does use a flat Earth angle to do it, and to make apologetics for that flat Earth angle, he can describe it as a tangent plane based on the assumption, begging the question fallacy, that he's put in his assumptions at point 1. In other words, he still needs a flat Earth methodology.
Yes, and that's what I was referring to where he's created that segment. That can only be generated by flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris or measured And if it's measured, then it may be a chord. But I mean, you've got topography, so we couldn't measure it. It's got to be calculated through celestial navigation, which by definition is done on a flat baseline between town A, town B, and Polaris's GPs. That's a straight flat baseline between all of them. So it's not a chord, a segment length at all. It is a straight line. It can only be applied as a straight line if you're going to put it in there. But it's getting convoluted then because you're
It is,
allowing
but
it.
still, shout out to Brian. Tip of the spear, things get very complex very quickly because of the layers of bullshit. But yeah, it's worth dropping that in. It would have to be a chord line to give you a straight line distance as asserted. Well, no, we're not tunneling through Earth, and shout out to Brian for labouring that point.
An assumption is that
Well,
Sieni lies.
Go on.
1 second, Nathan. I just want to say that the only way to measure that arc length that they're claiming on a globe is for one of them to be at the center of that globe.
Yeah.
If they can't do that, then they can't measure it on a globe. It's that simple.
Yeah, we're not standing at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth for these angles to work as Earth being the protractor that you rotate. Earth isn't a protractor we rotate about ourselves at the centre of it. It's absolutely absurd. And to assert it at the point that you're trying to figure out what Earth is, as being claimed here, is even more absurd because it's blatantly begging the question. It's a logical fallacy. And then to use a flat Earth methodology to do it, and then conclude that the flat Earth methodology led to the bendy surface that you needed to get the angle, it's absurd on so many levels.
Lies on the Tropic of Cancer. This is because we're saying that on the summer solstice, the noontime sun is straight overhead in Sieni, which is in fact how the Tropic of Cancer is defined. That is, the Tropic of Cancer is the latitude at which the noontime sun is straight overhead on the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere.
Hemisphere? Latitude lines? Go on, Adam, you got there first.
I'm not even questioning that. It's not an assumption. That's a fact. Cyan does have a GP, which is directly below half of the sun on that date once a year when it's at its highest point.
Yeah, but the two problems are...
So it's not an assumption.
No,
you get me?
The two assumptions, there's two assumptions that are contradictory. The first was that it's going to appear somewhere on a flat Earth measured grid system in respect to latitude. The second is that it's in respect to hemispherical positioning. Well, those two statements are contradictory with one another. So he's got two assumptions. One proves a flat Earth because that's how the grid system's used. The other assumes a sphericity that precludes an angle measurement. So, unless you assume a tangent plane, notwithstanding your pointing it out earlier. So, these two things are a contradiction of one another, Adam. I don't know what you've got to say about that. It's not necessarily directed to you, just last person talking.
He's got it on the grid system. And on the grid system, you've still got the tropics. Yeah. It's when you take a ball and draw circles on the ball and call them the tropics that is substituting. The point I'm making is this is not an assumption that CN has a GP once a year that doesn't allow for a shadow because it's directly under the path of the sun. That's just a fact, irrespective of whether you think you're on a ball or not. It's a fact of celestial navigation.
No, sure. We established that earlier. It's part of the trailer. It was a time of war.
So it's not an assumption. So I don't know why he's saying I'm assuming it's on the Tropic of Cancer. I don't see why that is an assumption.
Now I see what you mean. Now I'll put it back up on screen. This is under assumptions. I see. Yeah. No, that's true. Gotcha.
Let's see if it gets to some more assumptions, actual ones.
The third assumption he makes is that Sieni is due south of Alexandria. This needs to be true because if the cities lie east-west of one another, that doesn't have any effect on the angle at which the sun's rays come in.
Right, well, that's not true.
But
if you go back to the map, you'll see they're not on the same latitude lines.
Okay, so it's just ignorance on the part of the narrator. I don't know how long we want to dwell on this. We're not ballers. So, yeah.
If he says Sieni one more time, I'm going to take a contract out on him.
Cyan. Oh, somebody's at my
You
door.
gotta give him
Guys, sorry,
props, though,
I've got
because-
my wife slipped out and someone at my door. I have to answer it. Please, can you pick up the slack just for 2 seconds?
I was just gonna say you kind of have to give them props though, because most of these numpties that we listen to, we gotta listen for the disclaimers they make and point them out. This guy's like at the end of all this crap, he's like, "Well, so check out all the assumptions that I had to make and all this nonsense I just told you guys." It's like, all right, thanks, buddy. And then the first one out the gate, oh, we gotta assume the Earth is a sphere. Thanks.
But what he just said there a minute ago about how they need to be on the same longitude line to for the sun's rays to come in, like for the angle of the sun's rays. How would he know about that? Like the whole point of this is, Chocolate, you were just saying again earlier, how would he know about this longitude line? Supposedly, this was the first measurement. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly my point.
You know what I mean? So that's complete nonsense. You know, and angles of the sun's rays, they don't know what angle, like according to them, they hadn't even determined what angle the sun's rays were coming in at that point.
It's
You know,
like they're trying to use the grid they don't have to figure out the radius that they need for the grid that they don't have to figure out the radius.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
18 minutes difference.
Only the north-south direction is important for this. So let's see how good these assumptions are. Well, the first one, the Earth is a sphere, that's a pretty good assumption.
Because
Where's all the other assumptions? He's only got what the hell?
whoever's not on mute up. Go ahead, Q. What's your objection?
That's Elijah.
Oh, my bad.
Bloody hellfire. Go ahead, Q.
I'm just saying that is he done with the assumptions? What is going on here?
He didn't recognise any of the flat Earth assumptions that were required in terms of his geometric and angle measurement assertions in his methodology, but he did recognise that he begged the question of a sphere Earth and then assumed two things that weren't actually assumptions and were incorrect in one instance. The rest of them, the flat Earth things that he had to assume because they were prerequisite to make the angle measurements, he just didn't acknowledge any of them.
Now, what about the parallel rays of the sun and the sun being close and how they use some hard pipe-hitting surveyors to get the distance between the two places? Those types of things.
Sorry, hold on. I actually, by chance, he's just sent me an email. He says, quote, all pretty good assumptions, end quote. There you go.
No, listen, it's
John.
coming up, John. It's coming up. But just replay the last part about the Earth being spherical is a pretty good assumption. That's all he says.
Only
There's
the
no proof
north-south
for it.
direction is important for this. So let's see how good these assumptions are. Well, the first one, the Earth is a sphere, that's a pretty good assumption. Technically not exactly a sphere, but it's pretty close. How about the second assumption?
Hang on.
So it's a good assumption because it's pretty damn spherical, by assumption.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to jump on earlier. How is that a good assumption? I don't see where the logic came from to make that a good assumption.
You're fighting against the fallacy and saying, I don't see how this fallacy is good logic. No, you're right, Brian.
So he's assuming the very thing he's attempting to prove. He needs to look up logical fallacies. Wonder what that will point him to.
Begging the question.
Does Sieni lie on the Tropic of Cancer?
Brian. There you go. I did it for you.
Almost. The Tropic of Cancer, turns out, is right about here, a little bit south of Sieni. But it's pretty close.
That's
is
it.
Sieni due
Contract's out.
south of Alexandria? Not quite. It's a little bit east. And since we only care about the north-south distance between the two cities, this means that if you measure the distance between Alexandria and Sieni, it's going to be a little too long, and you're going to overestimate the size of the Earth. Luckily, though, the error in the placement of the Tropic of Cancer actually results in an underestimate of the size of the Earth, and so these two errors tend to cancel one another out rather than add up.
You see? So good.
On underestimate. What does he? Could you put that back on, Nathan? What the hell is he talking about?
The error in the placement of the Tropic of Cancer actually results in an underestimate of the size of the Earth, and so these two errors tend to cancel one another out rather than add up.
You know what's interesting about that is they always have two different hypotheticals that cancel each other out, that equate to you not having the effect of the claim that they made.
Either that or it's just negligible.
No, this is different. This is a margin of error cancelling itself out, as opposed to a contradictory, completely nonsensical statement versus a non-reality that you don't observe cancelling each other out, therefore making it true. This is different.
Well,
How do you
when
actually
they-
measure
when they- Go ahead. It's not important. Go ahead.
Sieni and Alexandria? Well, it turns out that at the time, the Ptolemaic government was in the habit of measuring distances from various places for land surveying purposes. And so there was an
They'd need a flat Earth for that too.
And some hard pipe hitting surveyors.
Yes, sir.
As it turns out, they were really interested in surveying. Come on.
profession
no
of people who went
evidence
around
that-
measuring the distances from one place to another by counting their steps. So either this distance
Look, it's perfectly legit, okay? Don't laugh. It's not unreasonable to count out distances in steps when you're calculating circumference values for Earth that's a
I
sphere.
mean, that doesn't sound too archaic or nothing.
Does it have the tag? Nah, it's not. It's not got anything about flat Earth under this.
had already been measured by the government, so it was known, or Eratosthenes simply paid one of these guys to measure this distance. But there's another problem here. What we want for this experiment is the distance
Stay with me.
Not an experiment.
as the crow flies,
just
not
got-
on land.
Nathan, he's listed his assumptions. I mean, number one, right, is his surveying assumption that Abdul could count 15 million fairy steps and it translate to any kind of real straight line distance across the surface. That is the hugest assumption that we've had so far, that the numbers he's going to put in have any relevance, have any validity to either a circumferential value or even a straight line distance.
So really, this should have a strap line underneath it saying words to the effect of, the globe Earth is an archaic idea using flat Earth elevation angle measurements to delude the public into this archaic notion with archaic measurements that aren't really measurements and labelled as experiments incorrectly. You should have that sort of disclaimer underneath it.
Yeah, it's on a proper tramp stamp for the ball.
Archaic.
So if you have hills and valleys that you either have to walk around or over, this is adding to the distance. Thankfully, Egypt is a pretty flat country, and especially if you're walking.
It's a what?
What?
It's a what country?
It's a what?
So if you have hills and valleys that you either have to walk around or over, this is adding to the distance. Thankfully, Egypt is a pretty flat country, and especially if you're walking near the Nile, as the Saharan image of giant sand dunes doesn't start till further west closer to Libya.
Gotcha. So fortunately, Earth's nice and flat to give you the nice straight flat distances for the. Yeah. Are these
For your
people
pace
just?
count.
These people just like.
And if you use
sent
if
to
you
snatch
use
your
a
own wig
river-
off school. I'll get there. Are they sent to snatch your own wig off school or what?
Yeah, because he
Yes.
cited the only 6-inch drop of the Nile across its length. So it's one of the flattest areas, isn't it, with a really low relief on the river. I'm sure it's like 6 inches. across
How
the
many
flat
pretty
plane.
flat countries do you need to make a sphere?
A lot. All of them.
What's the distance that we're talking about here? 500 miles, somewhere in that vicinity?
Yep.
In the military, we used to do pace counts, right? We'd do them on a number of different, 100-meter pace count. That's only 100 meters, right? And we'd do them over uneven terrain, some flat terrain, others uneven, and you'd average it out. At 500 meters, we were 10 to 20% off every single time. 500 meters. We always had to take that into account.
Wait, was it always plus 20%?
No.
Oh,
not
plus or
always,
minus?
no.
Oh, okay.
So,
If
so
it
you're
keeps you
saying at
walking across the
500 miles, you would be
Yeah.
just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside, yes.
even if you're walking across alongside a pretty flat river.
Yes.
500 miles, 600 miles. It's all the same.
But then again, if you're walking along the Nile, even though it runs pretty much south to north, it still is a river and winds around a bit. And so you're going to measure a distance that's a little too long. But if there's a place where the distance on land is pretty close to the distance as the crow flies, Egypt would be that place.
Not if it was a sphere.
Sure.
What an idiot.
Yeah, he's a
So
clown.
Yep.
Eratosthenes carries out this experiment and measures
Say it with me.
An experiment.
the angle theta to be 1/50th of a circle, and the distance s between the two cities to be 5,000 stadia. A stadion was the standard unit of measurement at the time.
Sorry, did you not just tell us it was done in footsteps? Am I missing something? Did they have the Stadia sticks with them when they were doing it in footsteps?
And it is apparently equivalent to 157.5 meters.
Because so as substantiated by No, he's going to do that next. Watch.
But this conversion is debated among historians, and it could be anywhere between 157 to 209 meters.
Sorry, just mock your own shitty evidence, I would.
Nevertheless,
Just, add a little bit of geekiness there. The stadia are known because it's a celestial navigation derived unit.
using these
It
values,
equates to
Eratosthenes
It equates to 1/10 of a nautical mile.
Oh, what's a nautical mile?
It's a flat Earth measurement, distance derived from elevation angles to Polaris off a flat baseline.
I see. So 1 degree as it drops towards the horizon would be representative of what, sort of 60 nautical miles. And what did you say it was for Stadia?
It's 1/10 of a nautical mile.
I see.
So it's a flat Earth unit.
So 1/10 of 60 nautical miles, correct?
1 nautical mile, yeah. So it's a very small, yeah. So there's 60 nautical miles per degree, isn't there? And 1/10 of one of those nautical miles is equal to a stadia.
You sure about that?
Yeah. So it's no
we
different
just say yeah for once. Just give him it. Does it really matter? I mean, let's be honest.
Also be described as 1/10 of a minute of latitude.
There you go.
I thought a stadia was from your. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm mixing it up with another term. From your elbow to your index finger.
Foot.
That'd be a cubit.
Not a cubit. Like I said, I may be confusing it.
Okie
Carry
dokie.
on.
I'm glad we did this. Historically fun and all that.
finds the circumference of the Earth
the
to be
point-
250.
Oh no, we're not done.
No,
Go ahead.
The point wasn't to argue it, it was to prove it's a flat Earth distance. It's derived via celestial navigation, knowing that the baseline is flat. That's its point. The units he's stating are flat Earth units.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank God.
50,000 stadia, which is a little over 39,000 kilometers, using the 157.5 meters per stadia conversion. Modern measurements of the Earth's circumference, if you go around the poles, is a little over 40,000 kilometers.
Let's see those then. Obviously, he's going to show us that measurement to contrast it now, isn't he? It's only reasonable, and that's obviously what we're going to expect to happen next.
So using this method, he was only off
get that, are we?
Well,
We're gonna
no,
get the-
you speak too soon.
by about 1.6%. By the way, if you use the 209 meters per stadion instead, then he's off by about 30%.
This is where he'll give us the the actual measurement to make sure we can verify that the vastly, wildly varying distances and stadia and footsteps and flat versus straight lines and rivers and over flat terrain, all of these wildly different measurements come within a surprisingly, a surprisingly accurate and exact 1.6% difference. it shocks me that given the variation of the original measurement, not only that, obviously we're going to see that new measurement to compare it, but how you can give it as a single number. How is something so widely varied only 1.6% different? That seems stupid.
He did say up to 30, but what was Al-Biruni out? Was he 3?
Within 5%.
5. So in 1,000 years of advancement, they managed to increase their error rate by 3-fold.
So, food for thought.
What? Food for thought? Where's the measurement to compare it to?
A similar experiment was...
What? Well, excuse me? No. I put my neck out for you, my friend. I said that obviously you wouldn't just throw out a baseless assertion that it was in 1.6 of a measurement that you didn't show. Where's the measurement? This crap that's widely varied and archaic and pretty loose, they're being pretty fast and loose. If I tell someone I'm going to make them a house and then I go, oh, it's about this many footsteps, they're going to be pretty pissed with me, yeah? But yet we're supposed to take this as read based on it being within 1.6 of an actual measurement. Where's that? Oh, is it just this and a baseless assertion? All right. Well, I wish I hadn't stuck my neck out for you, assuming that you would give us that actual measurement. Yeah, there isn't one.
Can I just add something in there? Kind of.
I'm going to go in no.
As well, I suppose.
I'm thinking no.
I'm thinking no.
Yeah,
also.
well, you're going to have to hear it.
Can we just finish the video?
Arwin's thinking no too. Go ahead, Brian. Everyone else shut up. Go ahead, Brian.
Today. Thanks, Nathan. If they're going to be doing that today, right, they're going to pre-assume that they have an oblate spheroid. Now, the oblateness of their sphere, right, comes from the pre-assumption that they're rotating, so centrifugal force will cause the sphere to become oblate. But the geometry is spherical, not oblate. Right? The oblate measure, the oblate calculation of figures that they throw around, they don't realize that that's only due to the pre-assumption of rotation and centrifugal force. Right? None of that is, obviously, none of this, with the exception of the flat Earth measurement, has ever been actually measured, right? So they're going, what that will do is anything close to the equator, the latitudes close to the equator, is that will cause them to mutate, right? So that will, so if they were trying to do that today, whatever they come up with trying to match that would be wrong. Even because if they were using an actual sphere and they measured it correctly and then just added R, then it would probably be correct. But the fact that they're going to use an oblate spheroid means they can never be right. So their assumptions destroy their other assumptions that leads them to their assumptions.
Poor Brian, because he didn't assume that was an error, but because he'd made other errors on his previous assumptions, those two errors have cancelled each other out to bring him within 1.6%.
Almost commendable for Adam, but no, that's an example of when you do have two false dichotomies. I can't think of a better term, cancelling each other out in stupid globe narratives. But then he just to annoy me and make it complicated to summarise, threw in the widely varied yet comparable to an exactly 1.6% differential. That would have been so much easier to summarise if you didn't do that, Adam, and been a great example of how you can smush together two things, say they cancel each other out and therefore prove globe, but for the fact that we've got a massive variant in the bit that you strapped on the end. I don't know why you did that, but thanks anyway.
Net assumption 0.
Yeah, there you go. I knew there was a term for it, Chocolate. I'm glad you're here. Right. Net effect 0. Right. Like with gravity. We were not going to get into that now.
Later carried out by a man named Posidonius, who noticed that in Rhodes, which is an island in the Mediterranean located here, on a certain day there was a star that barely popped up over the horizon. But on the same day, back in Alexandria, the same star rose higher up over the horizon. And now you can play the same game as before and equate the change in angle to a
change in angle? No, what you've got isn't a change in angle. Why have you drawn out a flat baseline on the diagram underneath? Oh, they just love snatching their own wig off.
What did he say?
Hold on, go ahead, Adam.
You can play the same game and pretend that a change in angle means a change in, he's going to say, in curvature. The same
I
game.
heard that.
Yeah. A change in angle that you can measure with your eye against a flat baseline is actually the Earth twisting. And the curve is the outside edge of the protractor that you're twisting. That's the game they play here. That's all the globe Earth lie is. A juxtaposition from an angle you're measuring off a flat Earth to a protractor-based Earth turning with you on the curved edge of the outside of the protractor. Shout out to James Richards. According to the graven images they show us, Earth is a perfect sphere. It cannot be oblate. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Change in latitude, and all you got to do is measure the distance between the two cities. In this experiment,
You can't do that without a flat Earth either.
Poseidonius also found the circumference of the Earth to be about 39,000 stadia.
The flat Earth angle derivation. Ugh.
But there's a problem here. I'm willing to believe that it was possible to accurately measure the distance from Siena to Alexandria by counting your steps. But
when you get that bodge builder and he says, look, I reckon it's possible to estimate the number of bricks for this house just by pacing it out. Don't worry about the bill.
But in this case, the distance you have to measure is over water. And I just don't see how this can be done if on land you're doing it by counting steps. What are you counting over water?
You already told us you're using a flat Earth concept with latitude. Right? Derivation of star towards horizon as you back away from it. That's been converted. Yeah? 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles. 1/10 of that. No, that's not right, is it? 1/10 of 60 at 1 degree would give you the stadia. Yeah, I got there in the end, Adam. You only told me today, ladies and gentlemen.
I tried to find information on how this distance was measured, but I couldn't find any. If any of you know how this was done,
let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. You had questions. We had answers. If you make a response, make sure you do the same. Share the algorithmic love that we don't get as we're flat earthers. Make sure he knows at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, because there's no way he's going to respond with the algorithmic love in tow if you don't let him know. Going by in the live chat. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Go ahead, Chocolate.
It's Adam.
It was
I didn't say anything.
Adam, go ahead.
I've waited to see if he was going to cover it in any way, but I don't think he is. And he's now talking about stars. Once you've developed the presupposition that angular change means Earth curve, you can then apply it to stars and be just as convinced, can't you?
Hold on, is this going to be Bad Moon Shadow? Hold on. Is this going to be Bad Moon Shadow?
Yeah.
Oh, QE.
Bad Moon Shadow stretching across my path.
Perfect. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. So at this point, we're not really looking, but we've made the jump that angular change can be the Earth. But if we go back to the original supposition and logic applied by Eratosthenes, his logic to make the differentiation, and he did say that it could either be a ball Earth with a big, faraway sun producing parallel rays, or a flat Earth with a close, local, small lumen ray. What we found with sundials is that they're just as applicable with the moon. Now, I'm not making a claim, I'm just pointing out the errors in their claim and their model. The first differential was it can be one or the other, big, far away on a ball, or close and local on a flat plane. Last time I checked in the heliocentric model, the moon was a lot smaller and a lot closer than the sun is. Because the moon can produce the same readings on a sundial, on a moon dial, it demonstrates that a body can be close and small, therefore destroying the first logic that Eratosthenes tries to do and use as the differentiator for what the shape of the surface is. Bad Moon Shadow.
Bad Moon Shadow. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Adam and QE. Also, if you want to check that full episode out, Divergent Droid just posted a link to it. So, Bad Moon Shadow, episode 93. Was it 93? 94. So yeah, there's a link going by in the live stream chat if you want to check that out. A full explanation is on a Ballbusters from about 3 months ago.
Or if you have any idea on how it could have been done around the year 100 BC, please let me know in the comments.
Hold on, I'll just get my crystal ball and resurrect some of the dead.
Hundreds of years later, the Caliph al-Mamun is
I'm thinking no, Brian.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So am I, Kiwi.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah,
Seriously.
there's a very important point that's kind of missed with the Bad Moon Shadow because, well, there's 2 points. No, I know Adam and that is not missing them, but I just feel they need to be put in. Number one, within that paradigm that they have mathematically created, the moon could be 93 or million miles away and 800 or whatever thousand miles in diameter, and the sun could be only 2,000 miles in diameter and be only 38,000 miles away or 238,000 miles away. So within that paradigm that they've created mathematically, the sun or the moon could be reversed, and they can't tell any different.
That's
They
not
have
true.
all of the assumptions.
That's
to
not
do it.
strictly true. Just that
No,
does
it
not,
is.
no, that doesn't jive with Kepler's assumptions of orbital mechanics. So
Hang
no,
on.
you can
Let
alter
me
the.
finish.
Okay, go on.
You didn't let me finish. I know all about Kepler. Yeah, because they have to pre-assume everything is working because we're going around the sun, and the sun is a certain size, a certain distance, blah blah blah, right? But by pre-assuming that, they have to ignore that the moon could be that size and distance, and the sun be much the size and distance the moon is within our model. Do you understand what I mean?
No, I do.
All the rest of their
Perfect.
model-
No, what you're saying
all of
is.
their model. You know,
Yeah, perfect. You're saying based on their apparent
No, I'm not
behaviour, you can't decide which one's close or far or big or small. There is no difference. However, because of their application of Kepler, you were getting there.
No.
You were right. I was wrong to interrupt you.
No.
They have to assume it on their scale.
Well, the point I was trying to get to was the whole of their heliocentric universe starts and ends with the idea that the sun is really big and far away, and we are going around it. You could switch it around to make the moon that big and far away, and us be making some kind of a weird orbit of the moon or something at a different rate altogether. You could switch the whole model, the whole heliocentric model, around to a lunar model, and they couldn't argue the difference. That's the point. That's only point one. Point two is that people argue about shadows because that's what they wanted to argue about. Now, we've destroyed the argument with the Bad Moon Shadow. But the point is that why are people arguing about shadows? So they can ignore the horizontal baseline they needed between Alexandria and Sinai.
Tiny.
Finished.
And Alexandria. Right, they need a flat baseline. Again, you got props earlier in the live show because what they have to derive is a chord length if they're going to assert that, regardless of how sloppy it is with steps or stadia, flat Earth derived. Yeah, they're going to need a flat line for the distance. Well, what they're doing, they're going to use a chord through the globe when they haven't even decided it's a globe yet. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, but people are left arguing about the shadows and thinking the shadows, oh, well, the shadow solves it. No, it doesn't. The shadow thing was a complete red herring to the whole thing, because there's no way they can claim a globe if they're just walking off the angle. So they'll divert everyone's attention to shadows. Now, we did destroy the shadow thing, but it doesn't matter. Even if we didn't, it wouldn't make any difference. The point is that they diverted your attention away from how they measured it, the actual measurement, to how they decided to calculate it after the measurement. Just like when they take a measurement in celestial navigation, that's a horizontal distance across a horizontal plane of Earth. And then they decide to bring that to the center of their globe and make it an arc length, the distance you measured horizontally.
To have repeated Eratosthenes' experiment by laying down rope in order to measure the
Stay with me. It's not an experiment.
Not an experiment.
distance that corresponded to 1 degree in latitude change.
You'll need a flat Earth for that.
This means he would have had to lay down rope over a flat expanse for a distance.
Right. So if it's not chord, it's got to be flat. If you're not dragging a cord through Earth, tunneling through it, it's got to be a flat expanse. Snatch your own wig off, university.
distance of about 60 miles or 110 kilometers. So as we can see, Eratosthenes' method became the standard way of measuring the size of the Earth.
How did we get to see that? We got to see a few assumptions of begging the question that measurements we take in physical reality off flat planes actually transpose to a curved surface we couldn't get an angle from if you move it to the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth when you haven't even figured out what it is yet. And that the distance over a flat, straight line wouldn't correspond to your distance of S in this diagram. Because this distance over S would be a curved, increased circumferential distance versus the straight line that you just described. So this is riddled. It doesn't prove anything to do with Earth's sphericity. It shows you can just assume it, and you even disclaimed it.
Despite this problem of whether or not you could accurately measure the distance as the crow flies from one place to another.
No way! He actually keeps highlighting what we are one step ahead of him with. I mean, kudos that you can highlight the fact that this is a massive glaring error. Yeah. He's I don't know if you can see it on screen, Brian. He's highlighted what I just said, S, the distance, the curved distance, and he's described it as the crow flies, maybe to convolute it slightly. But ultimately, no, you've got a straight line requirement there, my friend. You need a flat Earth for this too. Nice that you can highlight it. Obviously, you're not going to say you need a flat Earth at the end of that. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, yeah, even with his idea there about a cord, using a cord of rope, right? The problem with that is that you have to, if you were even going to attempt such nonsense, right, the rope would have to be kept taut at all times. And every time you come to an elevation change, let's just say where something goes down into a valley and back up, or goes up into a hill and back down, you'd have to bring the rope basically through the center of that point. So if you were to do what is somewhat claimed that the Eratosthenes, whoever connected these hard pipe-hitting surveyors did, right? Then that would mean you'd have to you'd have to make sure that all elevation changes were nullified, which would also be drop. Drop would have to be nullified.
Yeah, you've got to make it. This is it. They've got to employ the flat Earth methodology to the point where they've got to force flatness. It was like, I can't remember who it was that Flatsoid had on his show, but he had a surveyor guy, obviously there to claim it's a globe, describing we ignore all elevation and whatever you want to call them, depressions. It's just the horizontal distance. That's all we focus on. It's all we do. It's just the horizontal. You're like, right. So no curve then, no drop, no Earth sphericity to account for then. They'll say it at you like they're proving how their method works on a sphere when they're literally describing how it must be flat.
Yeah, I find it cute that he keeps using the "as the crow flies," which, if you look it up, it literally means by the most direct or shortest route.
It's straight line distance as the crow flies.
Yeah, straight line. It was Andrew Johnstone. That was the guy who Flatsoid had on. I trimmed out the clip where he's making it explicitly clear that they ignore any changes in elevation. Well, that, if you're a globe believer, is your Earth curve that would have to drop away from you at 8 inches per mile squared. Where's the surveyor, globe-believing surveyor, telling you, no, just the horizontal distance.
That is, until a new method was...
That's it.
Go on.
That guy is not a surveyor. He just kind of promoted himself as... He didn't say he was a surveyor, but he kind of gave the impression, maybe, to some people that he's a surveyor. He's not. I have a funny story about him later on that happened yesterday. Go on.
Sorry, I misspoke. Bullshitter. Like a lot of them.
Devised by Al-Biruni, and this will be the subject of my next physics video.
Okay, I mean, I've got to give this guy a certain amount of kudos in respect to certain things at least being divulged to a certain extent, where anti-flat Earth propagandists wouldn't have. That have brushed over them completely. So while we can still moan and QE did, why is the rest of the assumptions? We'll be pointing those out, but at least he admitted, well, we just begged the question of Earth's a sphere. Of course! That's how models are made! Let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. It's physics, just so I've said it verbally, Physics Almanac is the name of the channel. And I'm even going to give him a like, so drop him a comment. That's it. That's the end of that video. Just what I need is a little bit of dead air.
I agree.
I'm eating an egg sandwich. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Thanks, Kiwi. No, I agree. I think he was honest, Nathan. I think that he actually pointed out the flaws in this thing people are told to believe. Like, how did he do that with footsteps or with ropes? Do you know what I mean? He pointed out these flaws. So to him, it's like, if anyone knows that he actually did this, could you let me know? In other words, this is not turning out to be what I'm expecting. Well, it's like when people read into Cavendish's work, into his papers, and they find out that he never measured G or M. This kind of thing. It's like, hang on a second. None of that happened. But he's supposed to be the poster child for G, but he never measured it. Eratosthenes is supposed to be the poster child for R, but he never measured it. Do you know what I mean? How did it? Where did this measurement come from?
Yeah.
So
go ahead, finish up, Brian.
No, that's the end. I don't have much.
It was rhetorical.
Right.
It came from a flat Earth. Go ahead, QE.
Yeah, I'm just taking a big picture after these two videos that you shown, or three smaller videos that you shown, and take a step back. And when I do that, this is just me, and I think Brian mentioned something about it actually yesterday, that taking Al Baruni and all the nonsense that we pointed out, all the contradictions, all the doublespeak, stories not lining up, Eratosthenes, all the assumptions that he didn't point out, you step back and you take a look at it and say, what the hell is going on here? And if it isn't obvious that these stories were made up post hoc, then I don't know what to tell you.
It was a time of war. It was a time of suffering. But with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Back engineering went on.
Damn medieval on their ass. As the crows flying and shit. People are crazy.
That is Nathan back.
Flying at the speed of making shit up.
Good show, that.
Earlier in the-
Are you back, Nathan?
Back? I don't go anywhere. I run the show.
All right, what's next? Mortimer.
Yeah, 5 more Mortimers, I think, is what we definitely all need.
I have. There's something in there. You know that just when you brought up that guy Andrew Johnson, right? Let me tell you a story.
Oh yeah, you said story. Yes, please.
Yeah, I posted a video that he did in response to my latest video last night in Master B or Master D, whatever it is called now, where he was trying to see what he was in my comment section, and he kept on asking me, why don't you do, no matter how big a distance I do, he kept on looking for me to do 10,000 miles distance or 10,000 kilometer distance for each leg of the triangle. And now I'm not stupid. I knew what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to bring
This is a
the
response to
line.
Brian.
Sorry, I was screwing it up. I forgot to put it on mute. My bad.
Just leave me fill in the
I will.
audience first. He wanted me. Yeah. Hello.
I will. Go, Brian. Go. We're all
sorry,
behind you.
I thought you said,
You've
hold
got
on.
100% support. I won't rumpus you anymore.
But he was looking for me to bring the lines to about 10,000 kilometers length each. That's 10,000 kilometer lines. Now, I'm not stupid. I knew that as soon as in Google Earth, as soon as you stopped referencing the land, that Google Earth would start referencing over the water a globe, right? Because the land is not where they manipulated. The land is the land, right? Because you can get into a car and you can reference those distances that I show in my video in a car, right? In America, right? You can basically do it in a car, but you can't do that over the water. And it's the water that they manipulated to make that globe. Let's just say, from a cartography point of view, they just made the water south of the equator smaller. That's what they did, right? I just ignored every time he said that to me. So what he did is he made a video, but he made it on a channel that's separate from the channel he talks to me on. It's the channel he converses with me on YouTube. And loads of people from his side were telling me, this guy made a rebuttal video to you. How come you haven't looked at it? How come you didn't click on the links? How come you didn't go and see it? You know, all this rubbish. And there was no links there, so no links, no anything, right? And I went to his channel several times and there was no videos up. And he was saying to me, I made a video, how come you're not replying to it, right? And I said, what video? There's no videos on your channel. And he was ignoring me. What he did is he spent 2 days, right, with his video up on a separate channel that I wasn't aware of, right, and giving me the impression that he had made a video on the channel he had on. And the reason he did that was so him and his friends could try and give the audience, all the new people coming in to look at it, because Taboo Conspiracy and some other people shared it, right, to give them the impression that I was ignoring a rebuttal of my video.
Wow.
Wow. So 2 days he spent, him and his friends, telling me that the video was there, how come you're running away from it, all this rubbish. And I was like, I don't see any video. Post it with the video.
So
and last night I got the video.
Did any one of them drop the link to said video for you?
No, they
as
kept
were
saying it was all
reaming you for not watching said video? What the fuck?
No, they kept saying the link is there. It's been shared 100 times in the comments. I didn't see any link shared anywhere. Whatever it was, I didn't see it. I got ridiculous amounts of comments on the videos. So I don't know. They could get 100 comments or more a day easily. So I don't know. And often the time they don't press reply, and so I don't know that I'm after getting the comment or reply to something. Or YouTube don't tell me that. YouTube only give me like 10% of the amount of comments I get. They only tell me about 10% of them. So I didn't know it was there, and he knew I didn't know, and he left me off for 2 days, not knowing where this supposed. I was saying, well, I don't see any video, and he was trying to make it out because I wasn't stupid about it. I knew that if I started saying there was no video, he would turn up with a video and say, "You're a liar. It proves you're a liar, and it proves you're scared of the video." This is what they were trying to do. So basically, he was trying to make me out to be a liar if I had said that there was no video, which I didn't. And he was trying to make it out that I was scared of his video. But he had it on a channel that I wasn't aware of, that he has linked in his description of the channel he communicates with me on. And that's what he did.
Their little tactics are getting more pathetic as more time goes by.
Yeah, is that considered a tactic?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a tactic. Yes, and they were all doing it together. They were all in on it. They all knew I didn't know. And when I saw it, all these trolls and whatever else, they all knew I didn't know because they're all together all over on Discord, on some server over there. They all knew I didn't know, and they all let me off. It was interesting. I was like, where is this video? Because I knew there was something around. I knew there was a video, but I wasn't. Where was it? There wasn't me showing it.
They're just giving themselves breathing room because they know damn well if they know you, they know if they send a link or a video to you, you're definitely going to respond to it. Probably that night.
That's true, but I think Brian already called it, right? It's not necessarily buying time. It's trying to lead the narrative from the comment section. There's going to be a certain proportion of people that go, I literally find it offensive to even hear the words coming out of a flat earther's mouth. But as I'm at this video, I'll put it on pause and I'll scroll my way through the comment section. Okay. So you can lead the charge from the comment section if you can make the person who's made a concise and good point in the video look wrong by saying, "No, you can't." It's just a tactic. But I think the real reason is what Brian's called. Obviously, we've done a divining motive here, but the ultimate reason is because they've got nothing.
The tactic of buying time.
Exactly.
They have nothing.
I think it's not buying time, but just go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, that's it, Nathan. No, I was just going exactly to what Nathan said. That is exactly what happened. So they made sure that I didn't know where this video was for 2 days to make it look like I was avoiding the video. To anyone knew who was coming in there, because they knew there was lots of new people coming in to see my video because Ben from Taboo Conspiracy shared it, and I ended up getting 900 views in just less than a day, which normally it wouldn't happen for 2 or 3 days. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of new people coming in there, and they didn't want them to see it. So they're trying to make it out that I was avoiding his video, a video that no one seemed to be linking me to.
Yeah, they're going to
And
lead.
that's one of the reasons. Sorry, man.
No, you go, Chocolate. You go.
No, I was gonna say I don't disagree with you or Nathan about I mean you or Brian about what you said, but I do think there's a little bit. Again, I could be wrong. It's my opinion, but I do think it's a little bit of buying time because, like you said, Brian, there's a bunch of new people watching this video, right? So this guy's got this video out for a couple of days, right, to get whatever his argument is out, right, while you're sitting quiet, not responding. And he gets that time to make it look like, oh, this guy is scared. This flat earther is scared to respond to him, right?
Yeah,
that's what
I think you're right. As a big picture, that's absolutely correct. And it's akin to us saying share your pain. This is their pain relief. Well, where you say buying time is all they do with us in response. Buying a few more hours of well, it's obviously not flat because look, Brian's an idiot. He hasn't been able to respond to this video we've kept from him. That's their logic. Okay, great for you. Good. I'm sure that helps you sleep for a few hours as you buy time.
If you want to play the video, and I might ask you to stop it a couple of times, and you can see that the thing about it is the most hilarious part about his video. It's only a 3-minute video. The most hilarious part about it, though, was that him and the rest of them, because this is not one of the commenters from the opposition on my video, actually realized what the video was about. And this guy will prove it. The video debunks his video before he ever made it. Because he doesn't understand the implications of what I show.
Too imprecise to be able to prove anything. So in his second video, he extended one of those arms all the way towards Vancouver. Now he had a very long, thin triangle, which was also not very good for proving anything.
Triangle. Well, it's a triangle, so I'm pretty sure we use triangles frequently to prove Earth's flat. Like yesterday with Alberuni. But
in his third video,
but
he created
just briefly. But this was that it's that video was no good because he used this distance, and then in the second video he used a longer distance, but that was no good either. It's like, it doesn't prove anything. It proves everything. I don't need to make any more than the one I made because it shows that the first one, which just used LIGO, showed that Google Earth is, when it comes to the land, is referencing a horizontal plane. And I proved that with a right-angle triangle calculator. Those straight lines must be chord lengths. They can't be actual distances. So what this is an assassination of my first 2 or 3 videos. And now he's going to try and address my fourth video, which uses a big distance, basically the whole United States. And then watch what he does.
Right angle triangle in England with arms of about 100 miles long. So a little bit better. And then in his fourth video, he created a triangle across North America. And this is the one that I'm going to look at to describe his method. So he started by taking the two sides of the triangle adjacent.
Okay, in the diagram he's got up on screen, which has presumably come from Brian's video, this isn't a triangle. It's got curved lines to it, so I don't know why he's referring to it as a triangle.
To the right angle.
Google,
and getting the
Google, I don't know, I can't see the video, but Google Earth will make the lines curved, but it's referencing straight. The distances and references are straight, but the Google Earth at that scale, when I have to zoom out that much, the lines, the triangle will appear curved. But it's only a visual thing.
Okay, and I'm not, notwithstanding the fact that when you zoom in, it will become flat, and the system itself is flat. This depiction on screen now is not a triangle. He keeps calling it a triangle.
The lengths of those sides from Google Earth.
Hold on.
In this case, 906 miles and 2,408 miles. Then using Pythagoras' theorem, he completed the triangle and predicted that the third side should be 2,573 miles. He then actually got the measurement from Google Earth.
Stop a second. Sorry. When he shows those two straight lengths and they're making a right angle to each other, that destroys everything he says after that. Because those two straight lines making a right angle can't happen on a sphere. Can't get a right angle there at that point on a sphere. Can't get that.
Earth and found
so he's destroying himself at that point.
552 miles. And so by his faulty logic, he has decided that Google Earth is actually outputting chord distances instead of arc distances, and therefore
No, that's totally wrong. I never said that. See, this shows the guy doesn't even understand my video. I didn't say that. I used the perimeter of the polygon that Google Earth gave me when I measured two lengths. Then I used a polygon with those lengths to complete the triangle. And Google's perimeter distance around the polygon, right, ended up being less than what, every time it ended up being less than what the right angle triangle calculator was giving me. And so the final was the right angle triangle calculator. But what he's missing is in both Google, right, and the right angle triangle calculator, we're using 3 straight lines, not anything curved, 3 straight lines. What he missed is that, and this is what they all missed, is that those straight lines must be chord lengths. They can't match surface distances if Google Earth is referencing a globe over land. But it's not. It's because when the right angle when I used the right angle triangle calculator, it actually ended up more. They should all be less. But the perimeter of that triangle should be less. And the right angle triangle calculator should be wrong, as in it should have distances along each line less than what the surface distances are from A to B and B to C, whatever, over the United States if Google Earth is referencing a globe. But it's not. The right angle triangulator was actually slightly more, gave a slightly bigger distance. Because Google Earth is not referencing a globe over land. He doesn't even understand the video that he's trying to debunk.
The Earth is flat. Now, rather than try and convince him of all the mistakes he's made in his method, I thought it'd be far better for him to see for himself how his method doesn't work and gets worse and worse as triangles get bigger and bigger. And I've challenged.
Sorry, what mistakes? He has just said all the mistakes. What mistakes? Show me the mistakes. He hasn't pointed out one mistake. He hasn't pointed out anything. He's showed that he's misunderstood what my video was about. No mistakes.
Is this guy like new in the area, in the argument?
He's around a couple of years, but he knew enough. He's around a few years.
Gotcha.
Around a few years.
Gotcha.
Challenged him a couple of times to actually extend those triangles to be 10,000 kilometers long. And here it is. I started at this location in northwestern Mexico and extended 2 lines. One of them went roughly southwards for 10,000 kilometers. The other one went 90 degrees to it, roughly eastwards, also for 10,000 kilometers. Now, according to Brian's method, we should take those 2 sides of 10,000 kilometers each, plug them into Pythagoras, and find the third side that connects them to be 14,142 kilometers long. Now, to no one's surprise, the actual line itself is also 10,000 kilometers. So we have the line here that is actually 30% shorter than Brian calculated. I'm not sure how he can explain that.
Yeah, this is the thing. According to Brian's method, he just said Pythagoras, plug it into Pythagoras. According to Brian's method, no, it's a right angle triangle calculator. And what he's referencing is over the oceans. This is what I wouldn't do, because you'll see here he ends up with in a minute. Right? This is what I wouldn't do because I know. Go on.
Lee, we have 3 straight lines on a globe of 10,000 kilometers long.
Right, 3 straight lines on a globe. Hello. Maybe you don't understand what globes are. No straight lines on a globe.
It gets worse than 3 straight lines on a globe. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
They all meet.
Just hear it again.
Calculated. I'm not sure how he can explain that. Interestingly, we have 3 straight lines on a globe.
Good night.
Not sure how Brian can explain that. Meanwhile, on a surface with absolutely no straight lines ever, I've got 3 straight lines. Dumbo. No wonder you put it on your channel with 34 subscribers. You're an idiot. There are no straight lines on a globe, Dumbo.
And he describes it as interestingly.
Idiotically would have been the correct word. Idiotically, I've got straight lines on a globe.
And a triangle.
Yeah.
And a 90.
Yeah.
Long. They all meet at right angles. So
I've got right angles
Right
on
angles.
a curved surface. You are fundamentally stupid. No, you don't have a 90 on a curve. Ever. Thick.
It failed third grade geometry.
Thick.
It's over.
Yeah,
Why are you going to go any further?
What we will do, yeah,
Okay.
Matthew, is trim out your stupid nonsense, put your bloody name on it. Not, what's this? Stupid channel with no subscribers and a weird name. No, I'll put your name on it. Yeah? And having you say stupid things like, I've got straight lines on a curved surface. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Not hide it to get some benefit out of the comment section readers. You'll just slap your name on it like when you told us it's flat, it's flat, it's flat, and then denied it. Literally came to my comment section after I put quote marks around things he'd said. I never said that. Yeah, I'll just trim it out and play it for you over and over and over and over again, you stupid idiot. Like this. Straight lines on a globe, you say. 90 degrees on a globe, you say. You're thick.
We have a triangle with
No, you don't. Idiot. We have an idiot. Not a triangle on a globe, an idiot. On YouTube.
On today's episode of Snatching Their Own Wig Off.
internal angles of 270 degrees. A spherical triangle.
A contradiction in terms. You don't get any angles off curves.
Now, what also would happen if we extended those lines even
The straight ones you don't have on a spherical surface.
further and made them 20,000 kilometres long? Well, again, to no one's surprise, they'll wrap all the way around the Earth, meet at a right angle on the opposite side.
I've never heard such a stupid statement in my entire life. Let's hear that again.
And made them 20,000 kilometres long. Well, again, to no one's surprise, they'll wrap all the way around the Earth, meet at a right angle on the opposite side.
No, they will not ever, under any circumstances, meet at a right angle. Ever.
Hey, Nathan, can I say something? You know, I'm always listening in the background while I'm working with the patient.
I'm going to go with no.
You said no? You said no? Really? No, listen, for real. It may sound like a redundant comment. I know Brian has said it, QE said it, you said it. But this is the most obvious, blatant oblivion of math, reality, and just straight up lying. Because poor Al-Biruni, I mean, he's rolling over in his grave. Because even the first video from the second video to what you're breaking down right now, you could tell, like Brian said and Adam said, they hijacked what this man was doing. They don't have anything documented in scribes or anything to back up their interpretation or their, I guess, spin-off of what he intended. And they literally are intentionally just lying. And it's very pathetic, but it's very frustrating at the same time. Because no one can be that oblivious to common sense, to
yes,
mathematics.
they can.
Yeah, I know. I you know what I'm saying? I'm giving a bit. I know they can, but I'm just saying it's mind-boggling.
T-Rose have a pretty strong justification for it. Quote, it's a pretty reasonable assumption. End quote. There you
go. Yeah.
Play that whole section again
All right,
after the Rose. Sorry, D.
Huh?
Just to hear the whole thing.
And made them 20,000 kilometres long. Well, again,
go
to no
back
one's
to-
surprise, they'll 1,000 kilometres, 30% shorter than Brian calculated. I'm not sure how he can explain that. Interestingly, we have 3 straight lines on a globe of 10,000 kilometres long. They all meet at right angles, so we have a triangle with internal angles of 270 degrees. A spherical triangle. Now, what also would happen if we extended those lines even further and made them 20,000 kilometres long? Well, again, to no one's surprise, they'll wrap all the way around the Earth, meet at a right angle on the opposite side. Now, according to Brian's
can you stop
method, we
there?
put
How many angles have you got now? Whether they're spherical angles or whatever, how many angles have you got?
Triangle. I'm going to go with 7.
No, you've got 2. You've only got 2 lines, 2 curved lines now. And you've cut a quarter of the ball out. with two curved lines. You've cut a quarter of a segment of an orange out now. There's no triangle there. There's only two sides.
Interesting.
20,000 kilometers into the two sides of a right-angled triangle.
Did you hear that? The two sides, the right angle triangle. Did you hear that?
And the Earth meet at a right angle on the opposite side. Now, according to Brian's method, we put 20,000 kilometers into the two sides of a right-angled triangle. We should have a third side here connecting them of 28,284 kilometers. In reality, we have a
Not
third
my
side.
method.
Go on, whoever's muttering.
I'm just saying it's not my method, according to Brian's method. No, it's Pythagoras, right angle triangle calculation, not Brian's method. He keeps calling it Brian's method. It's Pythagoras. Sorry.
You're using Pythagoras, but obviously he's going to cite the triangular spherical triangle Pythagoras method, isn't he? Because that's what he's using too, isn't he?
Right,
No, not anymore. He's only got 2 points. Point A, which is showing on screen. You notice he's not zooming out, because if he zooms out, all he'll show you is two lines. Because it's 90 degrees on a ball, but the 20,000 is equivalent to half a circumference. So wherever he goes, he ends up in the same place. You can't put a third point on, can you? Because it's 20,000.
Exactly.
That takes him all the way opposite to where he is. That's his second point. Well, wherever he goes, that's going to come back to where he was. So he's just got a quarter of a segment. It's all he's done is cut a segment out of the ball with two cuts. One down to the middle and one for across until he takes out that segment with two lines. There's not a third line there. So, and that's why he's not showing it on screen, because he can't zoom out because there's no longer a triangle anymore.
Of 0 kilometers. So I'm wondering how Brian is going to explain that. So, to sum it up, Brian came up with a flawed method that found some results that agreed with what he was looking for. He stopped right there and declared himself right. Although it can be easily shown that the method produces nonsense if you start extending it further and further, not to mention pointing out all the mistakes that he made along the way.
No, you didn't do that.
In short, that's a great big fail, Brian.
So I didn't show any faults or flaws, but I told you stupid nonsense like straight lines on curved surfaces, therefore fail. No wonder you chuck this on the shittiest unknown channel there is. No wonder. Andrew Johnston.
Yeah, he keeps on saying Brian's method fails. Then what he's actually saying is the Pythagorean right angle triangle calculation failed. He's saying Pythagoras failed because it's Pythagoras' method I used. And remember, it was Pythagoras' method that Google Earth adhered to. That's the problem. He's looking straight past the problem. These spherical triangles mean nothing, even if they did exist, because Google Earth is not referencing a curve.
In spherical triangles. It's every time I hear that, it's like married bachelor, military intelligence, spherical triangle. So what you do is when somebody says that, you have them define a triangle. Not them define it. I'm sorry. Cite it, what a triangle is, and then just sit back and laugh. That's what you do. Jedi mind trick these idiot baltards. And spherical triangle. If you say it, over and over again, I guess it provides some veracity. I guess if I say married bachelor, that will somehow justify the veracity of it. Is that what we're going for here?
When did they come up with this system anyway? Because it is some sort of system called spherical triangles, right?
They conjured it out of a contradiction. No, spherical triangles do not exist. Only in the mind of numpties that don't know what geometry is. Simple.
But the thing about it is that he keeps on saying my method, my method, my method. My
We
method
know.
was the Pythagorean method.
Yeah, you already said that 3 times. Are you on the Anthony Sleeping Warrior program? Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you've already told them.
Well, I
And
just
then
wanted to
tell
make
them
sure
that you told
everyone's
them that
aware
you
of it.
told them.
Anyone got an orange yet?
Why? So I can cut the peel off, lay it flat on the table, and then that proves globe.
No, so that you can make a cut that runs polar opposite, and see if you can make 3 points using side lengths that length.
Hold on. Are there any flat surfaces on a sphere?
No. Who is this
Okay.
numpty? What's his name?
Andrew Johnson.
Matthew Johnson. Yes.
Andrew. I've never heard of him. Why are we even talking? Say again?
We were talking about him because he had an interaction with Brian after a video Brian made.
Oh, okay.
Because of his tactical blunder, and Brian had to bring him up. So that's why we're talking about
Can
it.
somebody go chase him down, bring him on the show right now, so he can stand in account?
Okay, you
I
want me
would
to?
love that.
He's the
Hold on a
only
sec.
person that made.
Hold on. What are you saying? You're gonna literally go and see if you can drag him on right now?
Me? No, I don't. I don't know the gentleman.
Okay.
He won't show up anyway.
You never know. He might show up here, try to teach us a lesson or two, about a thing or two.
One can
You
only
know
hope.
something they get wrong is that you can measure, let's just say, across the surface of a sphere, an angle, not an angle, but a degrees, let's just say, between one longitude line and another, right? But that has to be measured from a central plane as an azimuth. They don't understand the difference between an azimuth measurement of angle, which were 2 straight lines, and measuring it over the surface of the sphere. You can't do that over the surface. All those measurements must be azimuthal measurements. You can't do it over a curved surface. They don't understand that. Just like they didn't. The stupid thing about this is that they didn't understand for a long, long time, because I remember putting it in presentations years ago, that all their spherical geometry comes from a central point using actual triangles. They didn't understand that. They denied it even some years ago. And now they're all supposed to be experts. So, this is the problem with them. They don't understand that azimuth is not over a curved surface. It's within the central plane. It goes
I'm
around
sorry,
like a clock.
I have to beg to differ with you. They don't know what a triangle is, Brian.
Yes, yeah, I know that's the point I'm making is they don't even know what azimuth is.
Well,
So
why would
triangles is going to be more
they
difficult.
don't know what a triangle is?
Well,
Yes,
a triangle
I
is
know.
just a sphere that's less curved. That's all.
Define a triangle.
A sphere that's less curved. It
Negative.
has 3 angles. Has
No,
3
it's
little
not.
corners.
Sphere. You're making shit up.
Yeah, no
Not a
shit.
triangle's a sphere. You got to be fucking kidding.
Oh, I'm making shit up. Thanks, QA. Nobody would have ever guessed.
Yeah, that when I ask a serious question, I don't need an answer that says, well, "Okay, what is a triangle? It's a sphere." No.
Yeah,
That
a
was a
sphere
serious
that's less
question.
curved.
So, citation, please.
I am the citation.
Yeah, right. There you
Shout
go.
out to
Down the
Danik.
tubes and flames.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, technically, yeah, a sphere, it's almost the same shape as a triangle, except if you accept that triangles can be curved, then technically a sphere is a triangle that's just really curved.
Yeah.
That's all.
That makes perfect sense.
It does.
Of course, you don't know what a triangle is either, I suppose.
Well, it was a conditional statement. And that is
No.
if you're going to assume that triangles can be curved, then
No,
yes.
you're wrong then.
Oh, I'm wrong then? Yeah, I know. But it was an if statement. So it isn't
you
something
can't-
I'm actually stating. It's an if statement.
Can't if an axiom.
Yeah, you can.
No, you can't.
It's not going to amount to anything, but you definitely can.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
He just said his claim
I
isn't
disagree.
going to amount to anything. It's not going to amount to anything, but I'm going to say it anyway. I love you, Armin.
The definition of words are meaningful.
Okay, I got a definition of triangle. It says a musical instrument consisting of a steel rod bent into triangle and sounded by being struck with a small steel rod. There you go. A
Yeah.
musical instrument.
Sure.
Wow.
But it's shaped like a triangle.
Yeah, it's a dinner bell.
Oh boy.
In geometry, a triangle is a three-sided polygon that consists of 3 edges and 3 vertices. Listen up. The most important property of a triangle is that the sum of the internal angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. This property is called the angle sum property of a fucking triangle. Bygist.com. You need another one?
Right. That makes perfect sense. Right? Because it only needs to be that 180 degrees at the very tippy top corners of the triangle. The rest of it could be spherical.
That's exactly what it said. Yeah. I missed that part. At the tippy top.
Yeah, that's for good old reference, yeah.
The tippy top. Shout out to Anthony.
I must have missed when you read the tippy top. I didn't hear that.
That's 2017. It was Riley's favorite description of the mountains when we were discussing the curvature.
That was Dirty Air Part 2.
After the
Alright.
tuft of trees.
Shout out to Tuft of Trees. Oh.
My point is that your definition didn't exclude the lines of the triangle to be necessarily straight. I just wanted to say that. I mean, technically, yeah, it should be in there, but I didn't hear you mention that, QE, with your definition. And that's
No
why
problem.
I'm screwing
Okay,
around with you.
No problem. Triangles. A polygon is a closed figure on a plane bounded by straight line segments as its sides. You're done.
Okay, well, that changes things. That means I'm going to
clears
have
that
to redefine the word straight then.
What is the 2023 brand new definition of the word straight, Arwen?
Not gay.
Where'd everyone go? Are we still live?
I got a definition of this.
No?
Spherical trigonometry is the branch of spherical geometry that deals with the metrical relationships between the sides and angles of spherical triangles, traditionally expressed using trigonometric functions.
Wrong.
The sphere. Geodesic. Great. That's what it says.
Yeah, spherical is spherical is spherical. Thanks for the definitions.
But I'm
Now
saying
look at the definition of curved triangle.
there are no curved triangles unless you bring this stupid shit in there. But
You
I
can
mean-
Google it, can't you? So it must have a definition, even though earlier in the definition of the triangle, it said it had to be a straight line. But if you can find it on Google, well, then there is curved triangles. So define it for me.
Adam, what the hell is spherical geometry for?
Well, when you're dealing with balls, but it's not a triangle. 3 points on a sphere.
Right. It's what you need when you're going to presuppose the flat plane you're using measurements from is spherical. That's when you need it.
Yeah, but so they're saying they're assuming that Earth is a sphere, so they're using spherical trigonometry and saying it's okay.
That's a contradiction in terms.
I agree.
Spherical trigonometry is a contradiction in terms. Period. End of story.
Unless you can find it on Google.
Here we go again.
Normal
Go ahead,
trig.
Adam. I'm sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
No. You're still using normal trig. It's why it's so complicated, because you've got to use normal trig to figure out the points on the surface of a ball based on R. It's a real annoying thing. It's not straightforward. It's a complicated calculation to do.
Calculation of what?
Where the points that you're assuming intersect to calculate their relative positions to each other on the surface of the ball.
That okay. And
but it uses triangles inside from flat planes you create
Can't do it.
to locate the positions of intersection on the surface of the sphere.
You can't, that's
But
a
there's no.
contradiction.
Oh, let me finish.
I'm sorry.
But there's no such thing in of itself as spherical trig. It's still just trig. It's not spherical trig. You're just using trig to figure out this point of intersection.
Yeah, like I said, spherical trig. It's a paradox. It's married back.
You don't start doing something else. It's not got different sines and cosines, or you know what I mean?
So trig is not spherical trig, but you can think of it like spherical trig.
I'm gonna try to send this picture I got.
Is it an Earth curve? If we live on a ball, why is there only one monument to Earth's curvature? Why aren't there monuments to Earth's curvature all over the place? And why are they not described as such? There's only one on Earth.
I think I have a picture of it in Mass D. Somebody explain that to me. It looks like bendy lines, triangles.
Well, what makes the points not 90-degree angles when they do this? Like, why does it add up to more than 180?
Because it's not a triangle.
Because the spherical nature of it adds more angle? What are we talking about?
I mean, we have
Well,
balls, we have
why does
spheres, right? So there's mathematics to it, right?
No, well, I mean, as Adam just pointed out, like there's nothing actually spherical about it. So it's like, well, what makes the angles amount to more than 180?
Angles? What, like two straight lines?
Curve.
I think that's the problem. You don't have an angle if you don't have two straight lines meeting at a vertex. So it's not even an angle.
So then why are they calling it spherical triangles?
Because they are
They make
thinking of
shit
it as
up,
an angle.
Neil. Because they make
When you
shit up, man.
presuppose a sphere, then everything has to become spherical, right? Because all the measurements are taken from a flat plane, so you got to bend it all. If you're going to presuppose a sphericity, then everything has got to be presupposed spherical with it.
So I didn't hear you, Chocolate. What'd you say?
If it has nothing to do with all right, whatever. Never mind.
No, I didn't mean not to say nothing, Eli. I heard Chocolate saying something. I didn't hear him.
No, I was responding to Eli. You said what would make the angles bigger or not 180, right? That's what he said. But
right.
You wouldn't have the angles if you don't have two straight lines meeting at the vertex to measure the angle. So you're not even talking about a triangle with angles. You're talking about something that doesn't exist.
Well, the way I understand it, there is no measurement. They take 3 points on a map. There's no angular measurement involved. So I just don't get it. They're like, if you're here, then this star will appear at this angle or something. I don't know.
I just hear it as just add the word spherical or sphere to something, and that makes it spherical, like atmosphere.
Yes. Now you're
right?
getting it. It's a culture. You just add sphere to everything.
That I know. I understand that. That I know.
It's the spherical flatness. It's the spherical triangle.
It's a spherical square.
You got it. On that note, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day. What a lovely day.